Hey everybody, this is Mike, and it's Saturday night, so of course, what am I going to do? I'm going to put four incredible players into peril this evening in a game called The Siege. This is brought to you, of course, by two of some of my favorite supplements by Absolute Tabletop, the Be a Better Battle Master and Be a Better Weapon Master. Now, with the Be a Better Weapon Master, I kind of had to tweak things a little as as we push on from melee weapons into more modern style weaponry. But I think I was still able to do it justice. These are two amazing systems from Absolute Tabletop. Highly suggest you check them out. They're a wonderful group, and yeah, I'm looking forward to playing. Also, I'm also going to be previewing, or at least attempting, to do more streamlined rolls. So if you notice that people are rolling and then just role-playing the result, that's basically what we're doing. So they try and make some kind of a test, or they need to make some kind of a saving throw. I write it in the chat, which you can't see. They roll, and then they role-play the result, and they tell me what they've actually rolled. So we're going to try that out and try and make it a little bit more interesting, as it were. But that's enough from your DM rambling on like a rambler. Yeah. We have four amazing players who are very excited to tell you all about how absolutely awesome they are, and I will not stand in their way. So starting from my left, we have Lionel. Lionel, if you could plug yourself and your channel and all your awesomeness.
All right. My name's Lionel. I have a YouTube channel called Critical. Oh, shit. I don't really have a channel. I've just started it up. I don't really have anything on it right now. But it's Critical Fail GM, and I'm not really sure what I want to do with the channel yet. That's why there's really nothing on there. I'm fairly new to online play. I've been doing it for about the same amount of time as you, Mike, for about a year. Kind of fell into it and really liking it. And I'm thinking this year I'm going to have a lot more free time, so I'm going to probably start doing something with my channel. And tonight I'm going to be playing Soul Taker, who's the captain of the Black Company, which is a mercenary company hired by the Alliance to help fight the Tieflings and the Abyssal heretics that are raising some hell, literally. And that's about all I'm going to share right now. He's a level 12 warlock.
Cool, man. All right, and next up, after Lionel, we have Chris. Chris, plug.
Hey guys, I'm Chris with Drop Dice. I'm also 1/3 of Point of Inspiration. For now, I'm just going to talk about Drop Dice. At the end, I'll kind of touch on Point of Inspiration if Marquise doesn't beat me to it. But with my channel, I realized that I've got like two overlays on, so ignore me for a second here while I fix that. With my channel, I do some inspirational discussions and some like kind of game philosophical discussions. I think it's good to inspire conversation within the community, so that's kind of my focus with the channel. So definitely check that out. Tonight I'll be playing Tarlik Nolan, who's a fighter scout blood hunter using the Huntsman Path from Point of Inspiration's fairy tale compendium Grim Dark. And he's made a deal with his own devil, and we'll probably see some of that come out during the game.
That's pretty sweet. Next up, Marquise.
What's up, everybody? I'm Marquise Hardish. You might also know me as the bold and the beautiful Acceptable Strider. You can find me on Facebook under the name Marquise Hardish. You can also find me at my website, pointinspiration.com. I am 1/3 of A Point of Inspiration. We release third-party non-profit supplements for D&D 5e, so if you want to check those out, like the Grim Dark book that Chris is using, you can find that for free on our site. Tonight, I am playing Captain Maria Dawn Lefevre, a woman who, if the rumors are to be believed, is the smartest woman in a New or Old Worcester, and someone who is a fantastic strategist. That being said, as for class and everything, I'll keep that a secret for just now, so I'll go ahead and throw it over to the next person.
Right on. And of course, last but certainly not least, the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Carney.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Tim. I am one half of Tabletop Terrors and 1/4 of Absolute Tabletop. and I'm super excited because I think Barker and Matt got to play in the Ironheads games first, and watching that game, I was just on the edge of my seat, and I was like, I gotta get into one of those like now. And so I'm super stoked. As far as plugging stuff, I am part of Absolute Tabletop. We make supplements that we would use at our own tables. We work really hard to make sure that they're creative, inventive, and just fun. And we have something pretty big coming out here next Friday. Is something called the Copper Jackals. Something that I got to tell you, as someone who is writing it with my brother James and with Barker and with Matt, I don't know if it can ever live up to the hype, but we are gonna kill ourselves trying. And that is this coming Friday at noon. The Copper Jackals drops on the 26th. So check it out on AbsoluteTabletop.com. It is paramilitary combat rules to make superheroes like if the Avengers met the Expendables, with explosions and fantasy. So that's pretty much all I'll say. I'm playing a character named Roland Marshall of the 105th Division, known as the Trench Sweepers. And we'll leave it at that.
I like how there's nothing more fun than watching all the players say, that's all I'm going to say. And just keep everything like, yeah, I got this character. It's badass, but, that's all I'm going to say about it. I like it. But without further ado, let us begin the first session of the Ironhead Chronicles, The Siege. Pasha, if you keep robbing that same place, you're going to wear a hole right through the bar. I know, woman, but I open bar for first time. I expect to make money. But look, nobody come. Nobody wants to buy alcohol from orc. When I told your family I would marry you, I said I would make money. Honorably. Pasha. What? No, Pasha. What? And you see the woman, the half-orc woman, kind of nod her head towards a man sitting at the bar, elbows up, pint glass hardly touched. He's wearing a drabby uniform, barely holding together with any kinds of threads and patchwork. He looks, nods his head. The half-orc says, I'm sorry, my friend. Can I get you something to eat? My wife makes very good roasted venison. No. I don't want no food. But I'll tell you what I do want. How about an ear? Maybe you could stand here and listen just to a story. All right. What is this story? It's a story about the Great Star Fortress and what happened. The way the bards tell, it is great victory. I've heard story before. No. You've heard what the bards say. And let's be honest, between you and me, them bards, liars and thieves all. I'll tell you the real story about what happened. Besides, it's not like you got nothing else to do. What do you say? Okay. Sure, why not? How does this story start? Like every story start, my friend, with breakfast. As the sun begins to rise slowly up and over the Great Star Fortress, it casts shadows, twilights beginning to melt and dissolve with the oncoming sun. It's beautiful, dripping molten gold as it begins to peek through. And the four of you are eating breakfast somewhere. It is morning. But to begin, this tale, I have to ask the four of you. Where are you eating breakfast? The Great Star Fortress is huge. There is a central keep. There is a place for troops to eat and a place for officers to eat. But where would you be this morning at breakfast?
With my men. You know, these damn officer quarters, all they do is keep us apart from the men we have to know so well that when I blink, I need to understand that the person next to me is going to see the bullet that was meant for my face. So I don't eat in the officers' quarters. I don't talk about pay grade. I don't sit in the comfortable chairs with the cushions. I sit with my men because my men need to know me and they need to trust me. The only way they can do that is if they see me leading by example. So that's what I'm doing. I eat the same food. I sleep in the same bunk because I'm no better than them. I happen to be in charge of them, but they are my equals. They're my brothers.
It is raining. Captain Maria Dawn Lefava is sitting there in her quarters, actually outside in a small balcony area at a table. There is a cup of coffee right in front of her. There is no umbrella, there is no overhang, there is nothing like that, and yet, despite the fact that it is raining, not a drop is touching her. Not a drop is falling into her coffee. Not a drop is touching anything, really. She's looking out over the Great Star Fortress, into the great sea beyond behind it. It is snowing. It is storming. There's a typhoon. There's a drought. The sun sets and it rises again. Captain, I've bought you your... She blinks once. Everything is as it should be on a cold, cold morning. The sun is just rising. The troops are eating their breakfast down in their own barracks, in their own quarters. The office is doing the same thing, but not Captain Lefava, no. She is sitting here, and she turns away from the illusion inside of her own mind, and she smiles. Captain, she says. The word is strange to her tongue. She looks over to her lieutenant, a strapping young half-elf by the name of Rouvain. He smiles back to her, and in his hand is a plate. He puts it down on the table, and she nods to him. It is some kind of new pastry. I don't know, I don't do well with food. She smiles, she doesn't say anything. She's normally more talkative, normally more biting, normally more witty, but right now she's thinking of something that even Rouvain doesn't quite understand. She takes a sip from her coffee, a bite from the pastry, puts it back down, and stares back out. And once more in her mind, it is raining.
In the bowels of the Star Fortress, Soul Taker sits quietly in his unassuming chambers, devoid of most comforts that you might find in a captain's quarters. A simple cot, table, and chair. He picks absently at the food laying in front of him as he reads through this scrolls. He has plenty of those. To think that he can even fit into his room. It's packed full with lost tomes and scrolls, covering his bed under and over. He's oblivious to all that's going on. The weather outside, the slight knocking at his door as one of his men is trying to rouse him for the morning routines. Lost in thought, thinking. What more news will today bring? And his mind turns back to the scroll and he starts reading, ignoring the knocking at the door.
On the officer's mess, you can find Tarluk, who's sitting a little bit over to the side to himself with a cut of meat, or at least what the cooks tell him is meat. It's dry and quite tough to chew through, but Tarlik has grown accustomed to the salted fashionings of the kitchen. In fact, he almost wonders what it's going to be like to eat real food again, if his stomach will be able to handle properly seasoned meats. And it's almost an amusing thought to Tarlik as he contemplates about the fact that the war is almost over and that soon he'll go home. But what home does he have to go to?
And it is at that point, four of you, four different situations. A runner, a messenger, comes up, says, at least it's in four different situations, of course, for time. It says, the general, he wishes to speak with you, if it's all the same. You'll find him, well, general's office, just top of the keep. It's all right with you, if you'd like to come.
Maria would turn as the runner comes into her own individual quarters, and she looks at him. She doesn't sigh. She doesn't even have any kind of expression of shock. She merely gives him a sweet but very slight smile, and she stands. Yvonne looks at her and she says, "Go ahead and tell the others that we might be deploying again here soon." He nods to her. He begins to collect her plate and her cup, and she follows the runner to wherever he may take her.
Finally giving in to the persistence of the knocking, Soul Taker replaces the mask that covers his face. In all of his time in service with the Alliance, no one has ever seen truly what Soul Taker looks like. He rises slowly from his seat, walking, ready to berate the annoyance at his door. As he opens the door expecting to see one of his men, he's surprised to find it the messenger. After hearing the message, he just solemnly nods, looks back to the table with the scroll that he had left unfinished, steps out of his quarters and closes the door.
Upon receiving the messenger, Tarlik will simply set down his utensils and kind of nod with kind of a dismissive hand wave. He just waves off the messenger and goes about his business.
Roland would actually ask the messenger, "You eat yet?" It's pretty early.
Yes, sir. Well, I had a bit to eat, but well, I just had to stop to come grab you. I can probably go back to my meal after I've come to grab you, sir.
Yeah, we got plenty right here. If you want to grab something, I'll tell the general it was my fault. I'm actually surprised it took this long to get this letter. So I'll head up there and I'll let him know that I kept you.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And he goes over and begins to sit and eat some food as well as you begin to walk towards the keep. And I will... Nope, not going to do that. Pardon me. This is a map of the Great Star Fortress. Big special shout out to MS Paint. Anyway, so the most of you, at least from what we can tell, is the few of you have been inside this inner keep. The bowels are accessed kind of near the barracks and living quarters into large underground areas. Generally the barracks, where you would probably be eating Roland, would be in the general living quarters. And of course, the officers' quarters would probably be in this smaller building here, accessed into the main keep here. As you begin walking, as each of you begin walking, I'll start on my furthest right. Roland, you see a few of the troops. The morale actually looks fairly high. Everyone seems to be quite happy. The war is almost over. They, 5 or 6 days ago, this massive force of over 40,000 soldiers went out all the way to the enemy capital as they had broken lines and broken trenches and others like small like hillocks and fortresses all the way east to Mordeth itself, the capital of the Tiefling Empire, narcissistically named for their benevolent leader, at least as far as they're concerned. You saw them leave, and even as the days have gone by, as this was several days ago, still the footprints of so many soldiers had still like compressed the soil and compacted, and you can even see their trail, even when you were standing on the battlements, and you can see them that they have left, leaving their footsteps only as a faint trail of hope, the last hope. Everyone that could, the entire fortress itself was basically skeletonized until mostly the wounded who were in the infirmary, along with clerics who were trying to heal their wounds, and approximately 1,000 soldiers left in this place to just kind of patrol and run things. But of course, the generals had felt that their back was broken. The army was already done, and they're just simply going to walk in and take the place. As you're walking in, you see a couple of the troops. One of them, you see a few of them cheering as these two young soldiers, very young, couldn't be more than 17 or 18, looks like they're having some kind of a foot race, and they're running towards each other. And Roland, as you go up, Soul Taker, you actually begin, as you're walking towards, kind of go up kind of near to him, and you're seeing these two run, and they're making their own obstacle courses. It's like a younger wood elf and a young human, and this younger wood elf looks like he's kind of rushing ahead, but the human, amazingly, even with rings and all sorts of other obstacles in the way, he begins to just agile jump through like a cat, and just basically just starting to beat this wood elf as the wood elf is desperately trying to catch up. And you see this race, and you see some of the other troops are cheering for each side, and money's exchanging hands, and everyone's laughing. How would you react to this?
Soul Taker stops for a moment to watch the participants, admiring their skill. Of course, it's almost underlines the struggles he has always had. Not known to be having much physical prowess himself. A sneer comes across his mouth, hidden by his mask. He nods as he sees the race coming to its end, and continues on.
And Roland would he would sort of smile, and it would be bittersweet because he understands that this is how soldiers have fun. And maybe a year or two ago, he probably would have chided them and, told them to, cut it out. But he's seen too many young men just like this die tomorrow. And so he's learned that they need to have their fun when they can have their fun, because tomorrow isn't promised. And that's sort of a peripheral thought in the back of his mind as he sort of just smirks and decides that if he were a betting man, he'd actually bet against the elf.
And as the two of you begin to walk towards the main gates of the keep, a couple of the soldiers wave and cheer, because they know that the war is ending, and as leaders, you both were instrumental in helping. Regardless of your stature, regardless of where you came from. You see a few of them, a couple of the sergeants and kind of older grognards. Some of them look at you, Roland, with a bit of disgust. They turn their backs on you. A couple also look at you with admiration in knowing who you are. And they begin to turn around and cheer. And as you continue walking, you hear cheering, and the younger human boy is hoisted up on this rather tall woman's shoulders, and you hear, Marcus wins, and cheering, and this young kid is just like throwing his hands up in the air in victory. Small pouches of silver and copper are passed around, and quite a few of it goes to him. And they carry on with getting ready for the next race. Tirluk, you and Maria accidentally seem to run into each other on your way to the general's office. As you're walking up the stairs, you kind of see a group of officers, younger officers, kind of huddled together and talking, and as the two of you walk by, they both can't help just stop and look, almost staring at you for a second, and then turn around and begin to just kind of walk away. As you were going up further and further, you finally hit the general's office door, and you see a golden placard on the very front of the door. General Braemar Ironmaul, General Almar Tychus IV, General Amira Nairin, General Talissa Smallfoot. Embossed in gold with the heavy, beautifully stained oak doors. As the two of you are standing right in front. You hear footsteps behind you, but you don't see or do anything else. What would you like to do?
Maria stands there for a second, and she looks over at her fellow Captain Nolan, and she has a slight smirk again, and she says, "Do you expect that we're the first ones here again?"
Aye, most likely, lass. They do like to dawdle.
That they do. You know how the other captains, especially Captain Marshall, really they interact with the soldiers a bit too much, even for my taste. And she kind of tuts under her breath, and she just kind of turns and looks down the way they came to see if anyone else is coming up.
And are you two coming up?
Yeah. Soul Taker would just stoically approach the other two, giving them each a very brisk and efficient nod, and approach the door. Maybe he's wanting to pass through them, seeing himself or maybe as more important.
Yeah, and I think Roland would approach and just very colloquially, "Morning, everybody. Everyone have a good breakfast so far?"
I did, but I think yours was a bit better because you have a bit of egg just right, and she kind of points to her left cheek, just right there.
Oh, yeah. And he just sort of wipes, embarrassed.
So the door stands before you. It is thick. It is a beautiful door, and it is currently closed.
Roland says,
Oi, let's get on with it.
yeah, and Roland says, "Not it."
Captain Soul Taker seems to be very eager today to go through, so if he would.
Soul Taker shakes his head a bit and reaches for the door, thinks twice, and knocks on it a couple of times.
And you hear muffling, just a minute. And you had the sound of heavy footfalls clumping towards the door. And the door, even though it was a large door, it swung open as if it weighs nothing. And before you is standing a very small, very stout dwarf wearing a full doublet with many medals over his left breast. His uniform is, every crease is razor sharp, and this gentleman standing before you is General Ironmaul, a dwarf from the eastern mountains. And General Ironmaul is known, while being an excellent general, one that is in charge of all engineers and scout units. General Ironmaul, Braemar Ironmaul, also has a bit of a nickname, and that would be Iron Breeches, as he is rigid and inflexible, but of course this is never said to his face, ever. General Ironmaul is alone, or at least he appears to be completely alone. You do know that the other three generals had also joined into the siege of Mordeth, far away to the east, and left General Ironmaul in charge of running the fortress. Well, don't just stand there. Come on. Come on, there's someone I need you to meet. And as you walk inside this elegant office, you are taken aback by just the sheer size of this place. It is actually a circular room. There are 4 desks, kind of encompassing cardinal points on in the actual room itself. There is one single door on one side, and then in the center is this almost beautiful fireplace that is just ringed in these large ornate stones that have these beautiful onyx and like almost like tiger stone veins running through the entire thing, and this almost mystical quality flame just seems to be ever burning, even though there seems to be no fuel inside the actual earth itself. You see some couches, some thick padded leather chairs, and General Ironmaul kind of points to them and asks you to sit.
Never being one who needs to be told twice to sit down, Maria looks over the chairs and over the couches, and she picks one of the longer couches, and she sits at the very end of it and just ever so slightly reclines onto the side of it.
Having dealt with this man many times before, Tarlik will just quickly sit down himself. The iron bridge is not meant to be shaken.
Roland would also sit, sort of at the edge of one of the chairs, and just appearing very comfortable in his long trench coat.
The last one to sit is Soul Taker, choosing a seat that's separate from the others. Before he sits, he straightens his the many layers of his red robes and sits down, waiting.
General himself does not sit, or rather leans against a desk. He ensures that the door is closed and locked. And he looks at the 4 of you. What you're about to see and what you're about to hear are for your 4 eyes and ears only. This is a grim situation, and although we have tried our best to get any sort of help, I'm afraid that, well, I'll let her explain it. My lady, if you'd be so kind, and in one of the chairs you see a cloak being pulled up and over, but it's almost as if what you've seen, an empty room, a piece of it is being pulled off to reveal a woman, a tiefling woman. She looks at the four of you. She is extremely fine dressed. I mean, if she was living in New Worcester, she would be almost extremely high royalty. Not exactly king, but at least like a duke, something or a duchess, very very high up in the kind of nobility pecking order. Even her horns are actually gilded gold all the way through, that are just almost a reflection of her ivory pale skin. She looks at the four of you. I am Lady Irina Gos Uldun, and for 5 years I have been a spy. Your victories and your successful sieges have been because of me. And the general nods his head. Yes, true. She's been very helpful. She stands up. War is coming here to your fortress. And she pulls out a flask. Post. She takes a shot. They knew that your armies would move to the fortress of Mordeth to try and capture it and end the war. Unfortunately, our Lord, our God, has known about this and has told the Emperor to send a force of no less than 25,000 of his best troops here. And she takes another swig from her flask. And they should be arriving here in less than a day.
Less than a day? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, you did.
And you've been spying for 5 years?
Yes, I have. And she takes another swig. How do you keep secrets from a god? How do you do that?
It is not my job or anyone in this room's job to figure out how. And she stands up as she says it. She's not being threatening, but she's merely standing. And she continues, you were a spy for 5 years, as you just said, and you're telling us that we have less than a day with less than 1,000 troops to prepare for a 25,000 man siege.
Yes. Yes, I am. But to be fair, you are all dead men anyway. How do you think that you men and women could stand up or stand against the power of a half-divine race of beings? We are more close to our gods than you are. And you, where are your gods? Because right now, a force is marching towards here that our god is personally walking with. You wish to see that us be all destroyed. Of course you do. When you lived in this land, you used and destroyed and took everything precious from the earth. And now you move to a new land. You left us with nothing. Barely the trees, barely the rocks. You have taken all the steel, you have taken all the precious minerals, and left us with nothing. When we came to you for help, to want to go over to New Vista, you shut your doors, you do not trust us. Well, now this is turning around on you. Because now we got help from somewhere. We got help from people who are our kin. But you would call them demons.
So, I'm confused as to whose side you're on.
I agree. You're sounding very tiefling right now, and not very spy.
Do not No, okay. Do not see the horns on my head. I am a tiefling. Just like everybody I have come into contact with here has told me, everybody knows about it. And they don't let me forget that. And she finally takes kind of like another swig, and you see her like just finishing it off.
General, why did you bring this drunk woman to tell us this?
So we at least have some sort of preparation. We need to get some sort of plan in motion. We have to repel, defend, stand the soldiers to. And you hear, as you were talking to the general, it is over. My life is forfeit. She takes the flask and kind of throws it on the ground. And you hear it. It looks like it is made of metal, this flask, like a simple steel flask. But as you see it, it hits the ground, rolls, and then shatters like glass. You four, you are all that's left. All that's left of the leadership, all that is left of the heart of this fort. I do wish for the four of you good luck, and I pray that your ends come swiftly. And at that moment, you see her back arch so far back that you feel like her spine almost snaps right in half, and you hear her scream. Her fingers clench straight into the palms of her hands, almost feeling like they could burst out of the tops of her wrists. She begins to scream in pain, and you begin to see at the bottom of her feet, it begins to change into glass. Her whole foot, her legs, the glass just traveling up, and all you see, what is left after her body changes, is she is glass, and just continuing. And you can see her screaming this horrendous pain, and she almost looks up to the sky. The tears are streaming down her face, and then finally the glass just enraptures her whole face, her whole body, everything. She is turned into glass, the tears still frozen in glass on her face, and her final moments, a final look of agony.
So not very skilled in magics. I would like to try to do some sort of Arcana check to see if that could happen to me.
No problem.
Try to recognize some sort of...
Maria is also reaching into her memory. Has she ever seen anything like this before on the field? Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. I don't know which one to roll for it. I guess straight intelligence.
So you would know, Tim, that, well, you've never seen something quite like this. It just seems that it almost seemed to be that whatever you drank, or whatever she drank, would be the culprit if it took a steel flask and shattered it. And the General Iron Maul just looks shocked, and he, like, oh, by the gods, I don't even know what's wrong. And he taps, he kind of taps the her face, and I need all of you to make dexterity saving throws. DC is in the chat.
Tarlik is going to see it as it starts to happen and just kind of like throws his weight back in the chair and then pulls the chair in front of him to block the impending strike that is coming here.
Likewise, I'll let you describe the blast first.
Sure. As he taps, her whole body not only shatters, it explodes outwards. Pieces of what was left of the lady are now firing off into bookshelves, into the hearth. Razor-sharp shards of glass are going everywhere. Those of you who have rolled to meet the DC will only take about 6 or 7 piercing. Those of you who have failed will take 14, as shards of this woman are actually like piercing, like just slashing right through you almost with the speed. The general, you just see almost erupt into a red mist. His body is hardly intact as he like flies through the air, hits the ground, and is almost laying motionless.
So, as a general went to go touch this frozen, destroyed tiefling, time freezes for Maria. She's watching this happen, and her eyes go wide because there's something happening in her own mind. She can see the smallest of shift that almost no other creature will be able to notice that's not her. And she opens her mouth to scream for the general to stop, but it's too late. The explosion happens, but time is still slowed for her, and she sees each individual shard coming straight for her, and she watches the general literally almost disintegrate before her eyes. It's horrific, but she's a captain. She's seen worse. And closing her mouth and gritting her teeth, she just closes her eyes and raises a hand, and almost every shard just begins to bend and to miss her, just almost as something was invisibly moving it to the side. She lowers her hand, and a bit of blood rolls down her cheek from a cut. More effective than cyanide, I would wager.
Tarlok takes it a little bit less nicely. As he rolls back in the chair, you hear him kind of start muttering to himself, bleeding hell, this is all on all our swise on us.
Soul Taker sitting in silence through the tiefling's whole soliloquy. As she turns to Crystal and the general begins to touch her, in the back of his mind there's this whisper that he's so familiar with after all these years, whispers a warning to him, and he stands quickly from his seat and pulls his robes up over himself and turns just as the blast peppers him, and he feels the glass getting wedged and lodged into his robes, and some of it finding purchase into his flesh, and he just shakes it out after, and he only then seeing the fate of Iron Breeches.
So Roland's response would actually be I realized what was about to happen. But instead of stealing myself or protecting myself, I actually dive for the general. And that's what I would say. General, no! And you would see as I was trying to push him out of the way, I take some of the blast, but I would say that, as you described it perfectly, that unfolds in front of me, and just that red mist, and then the blast just sticks, all the glass just finding purchase. So I was trying to save the general, and it didn't work.
And as the dust clears, you see the general. He is split from his stomach almost right to his throat. His rib cage is exposed. His guts are hanging out. He doesn't have long. You hear him cough. Lasses, come here. Please, quickly. Quickly.
Already, Captain Lefavar is at his side, and she is kneeling. As she's doing so, she puts her hand on his shoulder, careful not to touch any of the wounds. And as she's doing so, he will feel something in his own head, something kind of opening up. And his thoughts are beginning to enter into Maria's head and vice versa. And she says to him, both verbally and in his own mind, General, I don't think...
Don't. He reaches up and he grabs at something and he pulls it off. He puts it into your hand, Maria. Open. Unlock. What's already been unlocked. And as he kind of he seems to spew up a little, but it's blood, and he just kind of, his eyes kind of start to go cross-eyed and start to roll back up into his head. And General Iron Maul, age 223, succeeded by wife Talia and 4 sons and 6 daughters, is no more.
And as he takes his last breath, Maria sits there, and she can feel his mind become black. She can feel that he is gone. She knows the exact moment of her passing, and she records that number by looking up and looking at a clock on the wall, recording his time of death mentally. And then she says, very lowly under her breath, he is dead. She looks up. We have a lot of work to do.
And in your hand, Maria, you will see a small, fairly about the size of your middle finger length key, made out of stamped gold and something else to kind of give it strength, but it is a very nice embossed key.
And I'm going to assume I've never seen this key before.
You have never seen this key before.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as Roland is picking glass shards out of his teeth, he's definitely got it in his gums, which is just the worst. So he's just picking it out of his, just he just says, I'm not sure what that's a key to, and I'm not sure what I believe of this drunk zealot. It could be 25,000, it could be 50,000. I don't know whose side she was on when she told us this. It could be 100,000. I don't know. But if she wasn't lying about the time frame, less than a day is not enough. And we need to make it enough.
We have 1,000 troops, 100 mages, 800 ground troops, 100 in the infirmary. We don't have enough to repel any kind of massive siege for more than a weak outrager, if that. And she looks to the other two as she's saying this. Apparently, the general thought this was very important. However, even if that is the case, I don't know what it goes to. I will investigate, I will look, but we don't have enough time to make an effective plan.
Tarlok's going to stand up and he'll walk over to the general, and he'll kind of fish around on the general's chest for a little while. The man being the man that taught Tarlok quite a bit of things. He knows that there's something that he's looking for that the scouts keep close. And he'll fish out a small leather cord that's got a singular coin on it, and he'll rip it off. And Tarlok will take his own necklace and start to undo it, and he'll slide the coin down and where it'll chink with 4 other coins. These coins are monikers that the scouts use. That when they join the scout regiments, their captains, their teachers stamp their coin with their name and the day that they became a scout. And Tarlok knows that it's his duty to stamp the coin with the man's death date as well, and if he lives to return home, to return it to his family.
Right on.
All right. So Soulkeeper shakes out the remaining glass from his robes as he walks slowly over to the dead general. He looks down, his cold expression hidden by his mask, as he then looks to Maria, and in a soft, almost feminine voice, he says to her, "What would you have us do? We cannot hope to stand against 1,000. Makes no logical sense. It would be best if we just surrender the fort." And then he looks over to where Roland is picking glass from his teeth.
If we surrender this fort, then our actual army over at the Tiefling capital loses the base of operations, gets surrounded, and then gets slaughtered. We have to hold out here until they get back from their own operations. I suspect it'll be a few days at the earliest before they receive word of what we're going through, but the Great Star Fortress is the Great Star Fortress. 1,000 men can hold it, but I don't know for how long, and I don't know what kind of war machines the Tieflings are breathing with them. My area of expertise was destroying supply lines, not holding out against sieges.
So, Mike, the Tiefling talked about the god walking with the army. What would we know about that god that she spoke of?
All right. What you would know, at least as far as what you've been told and what the Alliance kind of knows, and this is, could be half propaganda or half truth. It could be basically whatever they think that you should know. Is that the Tieflings, they believe, have been consorting with all sorts of demons and devils, and there was something where they thought, some people thought that they were consorting with the great chromatic dragons of old. There were tons of rumors flying around, and as far as what you've been told, is you've been pointed at the enemy for the most part and told to kill, because that is what you do, especially being soldiers. And you haven't seen many demons, maybe 1 or 2 kicking around, but nothing to indicate some sort of a deity that is walking or that is living with the Tieflings.
I propose this. Captain Nolan, you and your scouts are going to need you out on the field and seeing how many numbers they actually have, if you can. We also need to have one of Captain Marshall. We need you at least to get every manticore along the wall armed and ready. Those are going to be our first methods of defense. While I work on getting the mages set up as well. Salttaker, you will need to help me with that. We need to have everyone at battle stations and everyone ready by the time the army gets here.
Aye.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can muster the men. That's not a problem in the manticores.
Soultaker nods firmly in agreement.
I suspect they're going to be going for the main gate first. I don't think they're going to be coming through the sea, but if they do, we need to be ready for that. If they do come through the water, then I do believe that we've lost this battle. That being said, we need to focus almost everything we have on the wall and in between each of the pinnacles of the star. I think if we do that, if we can herd them there, we can at least kill many of them and get them to make it more open frontal attack, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. We're best in the trenches and in the grit. So myself, my men, my tactical style is made for this sort of situation, but usually we're the ones that are going through first. We're the canaries, as you've probably heard us called derogatorily. And in this case, we can't afford to be. So I think you're probably the best tactician among us. I need you to wield my unit, my men, the people who you have at your disposal like a sword. Because I don't have a mind for those kinds of things, but I do have a mind for putting a shotgun in the mouth of a tiefling. So I'll do what you need.
She actually breaks a slight smile at that, and she looks at you and says, and you look like you have a shotgun in your mouth too, so I'd also advise you to go to the medic before we actually move on with the actual operations.
Aye, aye.
If that's that then, Captain Nolan, if you could, tell me anything you can find out as soon as possible. We need to know what we're dealing with before we can even have any serious strategy beginning to be planned out.
Aye. I'll be back before long.
I will make this room our base of operations for now. I'll have one of my men take out the general and we'll give him an impromptu burial as best we can. I know we have at least a few clerics and faithful here who can do that. But if everyone's alright, you need to go marshal the men, Captain Marshall. You need to go marshal the mages, Captain Soultaker, and Captain Nolan, you already know what you have to do.
So if you guys have a plan.
Tarlik will kind of look around as everybody just kind of like sets in everything and awkwardly just kind of like cocks this half smile that he's been known to sport in many a troubled times. All right, now. Hop your bosey, let's go. And he'll start walking out the door. Sometimes the things that leave this man's mouth, you have no idea what he's talking about.
And I think, you know, if we've spent some time around each other, Roland would find strange comfort in that oddity. Like, not knowing what he was talking about, it's the familiarity of the unfamiliar that's consistent. So it's like, so, you know, Roland sort of smiles at this as well. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm glad you're doing your thing.
So what Maria is doing then, after everyone else has left, she would have called in her actual squadron. They don't have a name attached to them. Maria went to prominence in the army and the military extremely quickly, and she didn't really get much of a time to get much of a nickname amongst the people. That being said, there's several things kind of happen in this main little headquarters she's setting up. The general is taken, and he is taken straight to wherever the medics are, to the clerics, because he needs to have his impromptu burial. Second off, they're bringing her maps and other supplies, and she has an entire map on the main actual, I guess, desk you would call it in this area, or I guess table. She would make like an impromptu war table and put a map of the Great Star Fortress and the surrounding area on top of it, and she'd begin marking things and writing down things and making notes and making lines that would indicate the likely areas of attack. And she's just sitting there poring over this map, trying to come up with any strategy she can based on the very small amount of information she has in order to do, as Captain Marshall said, to wield the sword as effectively as possible. But she is grim about it, and she thinks deep down inside that they are already doomed.
Okay. As the four of you, or at least the three of you, begin walking out of the keep, you hear one of the soldiers, sirs, comes running up. Sirs, you best come to the wall, sirs. Just come to the wall, sirs. I don't even.
Aye, let's go.
Yeah.
Come on, lad.
It'll be all right, son.
As Nolan walks, he's gonna throw a hand signal over to a wood elf female, Lieutenant Winfill Silverwind, his trusted lieutenant of many years, and she'll kind of chase up the wall towards him to figure out what's going on, because along the way Nolan's not going to waste any time, and he's going to start briefing her on what the next assignment is, as he's greeted with what this man was panicked about.
Okay. So, as you begin to walk towards the front of the fortress, you see people like looking at you quizzically, and as some of you begin to speak and pointing out, you see troops kind of starting to click and get the message, and they start running to their barracks. Suddenly, everything becomes less of an actual drill and just more of a panicked run. Everyone begins running towards their barracks. They begin to grabbing their rifles. You hear sergeants screaming, "Stand to! Stand to!" And troops are coming in, grabbing rifles, shotguns, pistols, everything they've got. They get their hands on. You see cylinders snapping open, shutting again, rifles being reloaded, and men running up to the top of the parapet on the wall overlooking the large gates to the Great Star Fortress. You hear the almost comforting sound of manticores and starting to whirl up. The runners who you actually saw racing before. Runners are now running across the walls, which stand 60 feet high, and they are running ammunition to each one of the manticores and loading them as the operator sits in there and begins to test the mechanism for being able to turn it, pivot it up and down, left to right, and you hear the sounds of these heavy machine guns being cocked and ready. And as you get up to the front, the top of the parapet, that is when you see one of the largest armies you have ever seen in your entire lives. This is not an army. This is a wave, a sea of black tieflings everywhere, and almost the size, at least 20 to 25,000 troops. You can't count that many, but it is just a blanket across the front. But the scariest part, the gut-wrenching, most horrible part, in the center of this army stand three huge creatures, massive bat wings, large hooves, a whip made of fire hanging off their belt, and a sword crackling with electricity. These these three creatures are known as the Brothers of Pain. They are three of the largest Balors that the Abyssal Plane has ever created. But strangely enough, these three Balors, each one grasping a chain that is connected to a collar, that is connected to what looks to be a fire elemental in the center. The soldiers, the tieflings, begin gathering. You see them grabbing large, extremely thick steel shields, slamming them into the ground, and you see them begin to get ready. As a tiefling stands aloft, higher than the others, you look at him, and he screams, "Brothers and sisters, look at what we have, and look at what they have. Look at them, standing there with a pretty little fort. But we have a god on our side." And all just a roar, a cheering uproar of people just screaming and howling. "And them, where are their gods? Where is their hope? We know where our gods are and where they lie. And we have a divine right to rule this place and take like you've taken from us." And then he smiles and he looks back, and the Balors, all three of them, begin to roar, like howl into the sky. And you see the chains that they're holding begins to swirl with these abyssal arcane sigils, slowly running up, glowing in orange all the way up, and each one glowing up until it hits the collar. And all of a sudden, you see the fire elemental almost twist in pain. And if you've never heard fire, living fire, scream for mercy, it is what you have heard just then, and which will always haunt your dreams for the remainders of your lives. That screaming, snapping, heated, bent, popping metal scream as parts of it begin to cool and other parts of it begin to get even hotter and molten. Even like the cooling rock begins to turn molten again and start twisting and shifting, its body cooling to almost skeletal features, but then cracking and melting again as it continuously shapes and reshapes itself. And it becomes this. Standing in front of you as a being of pure fire and molten rock, the chains binding it have long since dissolved back into the earth. It moves its head up, looks at the group of you standing on top of the fortress. And you hear it speak, and it almost seems like it's speaking directly to your mind. And I need everyone who is on the parapet who can see this army, I need you all to make wisdom saving throws. And this is the DC. Wisdom. My apologies.
Mike, with your permission, I'm just going to step back just a second from your description as we're getting up on the parapet and we see that big sea of army out before us. So with Roland and Tarlock standing next to Soulkeeper, actually, I don't know how tall they are, but Soul Taker's not a very tall man. So with them on either side of him, he's just looking out at this sea of tieflings and other baddies, and in a like an older male, passionless voice, you hear, "Well, one thing was right from that tiefling. It's about 25,000 of them." And with that, bringing it back up to that, so as that wave hits Soul Taker's mind, he can feel it creeping and digging in, and he just shakes his head, and as he does so, he feels them pull away, and not sure.
Okay.
Tarlock kind of like just stands kind of back in awe almost, and he kind of starts to talk, but he finds himself at a loss for words, which is rare enough. And then he swallows very hardly that you can hear it almost. He says, Maria might want to know about this," and he'll kind of start tapping at Winfell, this tall, slender elf woman. "Let the captain know. Show her through your scope. She's not going to believe it." And he starts rubbing his face.
You hear his voice deep in your head. Those of you who do not make the DC, you feel this intense pain. You take 2 psychic damage as you just hear this whisper deep into your head, even past that, almost deep into your soul. There is no hope. We are here to kill all of you. No prisoners, no mercy. You will all die. And at this point, I'd like everyone to roll initiative.
Except for me, because I'm like a mile away.
Yeah, what's up with you, Marquise? Hey, let's split the party. Like, you just played a game yesterday where you split the party. You're like, man, I shouldn't have split the party. Why did I do
feel
that?
like with the runner coming, I would probably start heading that way, but I probably wouldn't be there for like 4 rounds or something. So.
Yeah, you would definitely want to. You would definitely want to get someone over there, or get yourself over there pretty quickly.
Do you want me to roll like a D4 or something for how many rounds it takes me to get there, or?
Yeah, okay. Actually, I think that's a perfectly fair. Cool. Okay. All right. So as soon as the voice just kind of cuts out, that's when essentially all hell just breaks loose. Yeah, that's a good one. So the tieflings begin just raising up in between these heavy shields that have created cover for themselves and just begin firing, shooting up over up at the crenellations and blasting all along the walls. The people that just have time to duck, and those standing up on the parapets will need to make a DC 15 deck saves all across, and then just don't even save it, just role play exactly if you hit it or if you get hit.
They're shooting firearms, Mike.
Yeah, they're just firing. Yeah.
So I'll go first. Soul Taker is able to shake off whatever mind influencing spell that might have been cast. He starts to reach into his robes to pull out his trusted revolver that served him so well, and as he does so, they just open fire. He tries to take cover, but he doesn't do it in time, and bullets just start ripping through his robes and into his flesh. And he stumbles backwards.
And then so who else did everyone else make the?
So I was gonna say, I think after being awakened by this horrible, after a decent breakfast, really, all this sort of happens. I get blasted with glass. It's in my gums. Come out here, see all of this. Take the psychic damage. This thing is in my head. But if it's one thing I know, it's what it looks like when someone's about to shoot me. So I immediately I drop, and I would imagine that the stone just bullets are hitting the stone around me, but I know where to stay so that if a bullet does come through, it's not going to hit me.
Okay. So you just make it. Like you just hit the dirt right against the crenellations, and the crenellations, unlike the standard medieval crenellations that come up to about waist high, these ones actually come up almost like to the top of your head and are done in such a way that they're like fanned on top of each other. So you can fire down the one side and without shooting, basically without being able to hit you like straight on. But then you hear a few of the soldiers, like some of them yelling as quite a few of them were hit and are falling down. And I mean, a couple of guys take shoulder shots. One guy takes one square in the chest and just hits and falls straight down. And at that moment, you also hear the pickup of the Manticore, and you see it like basically carve a row going right through these thickened metal shields as if it was butter. You just see a swath of about 40 or 50 tieflings just mowed straight down. Like their bodies just go from vertical to horizontal. They just hit the ground, and then on the other side opens up almost at the same time, just straight down, and just takes them all out. They hit the ground. You hear nothing. You see nothing. The Balors are still standing there, not doing anything. But you hear you see this demon creature, this whatever this thing is. It is staring hungrily. And if you could even see its face now, it seems to be smiling. And next up is going to be Roland.
So, just for clarification, at this point, do we just control ourselves, or are we controlling our squads as well at this point?
So at this point, you can control your squads as well if they are, if they are probably with you. Basically, you can have them assist you in firing. Most of the tieflings are basically you roll for damage, and so many tieflings you're going to be taking out.
Perfect. So I think I'm going to sort of mirror what Marquise was doing. I don't think that my squad would have been essentially ready. So I'm going to do, if you're cool with it, the D4 as well, for them to muster, scramble, get their gear, and come back up here. Because they were eating breakfast, not 10, 15 minutes ago or what have you. So, okay, so in 2 rounds, my squad will join and take rank, fall in.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, what do I see that I could affect now? Is there anything close enough that, can I hop on a machine gun? Are we talking, do I use my shotgun at this point?
You could probably use your shotgun, given the height you're at. You're about 60 feet higher than the enemy army. They are advancing slowly toward you, and they are also trying to get underneath the crenellations and begin to try and either get ladders, try to climb up, or even try to do something with that door.
Perfect. So then that is what I will do. I'm going to, and I want to use my shotgun. And so what I want to try to do is not, what we see so often in depictions of war where just kind of scattergunning it at the direction of the enemies. I'm looking for targets. I'm looking for creatures that I can drop and destroy with these, piercing shotgun shells. So what would the closest creature be? The closest 2 creatures?
Basically, the closest 2 creatures are basically like down directly in front of the of the fortress. It's just groups of tieflings are just basically trying to come up, get out of the line of fire, and then try and work something out from there, and try and possibly start to climb the walls or try to bust in that way.
Awesome. So straight down, top of the skull cap, just I'm just going for the 2, right below me, just right in the top of the head, raining down, exploded melon style.
Nice. Well, then I would say make your attack and give me how many guys you take out.
Okay, so both attacks are... Oh, that's excellent.
All right. Give it to me. Role play it out.
So, instinct has taken over. At this point, I'm at home. Everything melts around me because I understand that the challenges that are directly below me are the ones I need to deal with. We'll worry about the bigger, worse things when they're at our door. So right now, just 2. Boom. And it is just like a balloon exploding, full of red paint. Just the first tiefling's head is gone, and he falls forward. The second tiefling makes the mistake of looking up as his comrade's head has exploded. And so his face disfigures and evaporates under the weight of hundreds of pieces of shotgun shell. And he drops as well.
Nice. Just shatters him up. And he hits the ground, and I mean you hear some yelling and screaming, but it's just a cacophony of hoops and whirls and yells as more and more of them just seem to take their place, run right over a lot of them just run right over the dead, begin going up and taking shots and everything else with rifles. Some of them you don't even carry rifles. Some of them are still carrying melee weapons, spears and old swords and knives. These are just a frenzied group of individuals who want nothing more than to take out this fortress and all of you in it. And our next up would be, I believe it should be Tyrluk.
So the cat's out of the bag. I do have some singing for this character because I didn't pay attention to my mute button there. Tarluk will start to kind of sing some words to himself under his breath as he kind of steadies himself to refocus, and this is what kind of gets his brain back on the task at hand. He kind of cuts his song short, and he'll kind of look around, and he'll realize that he's got his rifle with him, and he'll take it off, and he'll start to take aim. bracing himself against the parapet. What he's looking for is, being of military mind, you can identify how squads break down when you look at a regiment that's walking by. He's trying to scan through and see if he can find where the breakdown happens and see if he can locate a leader. He's actually going to take his whole turn doing a perception check to look for officers so he can pick them off.
Okay, so that's actually awesome. Make your attack and tell me how many you take out.
No, I'm taking the whole turn to observe for officers because I want to make sure my shots count.
Observe. Sorry, I thought you said take a shot. Okay, then roll me. Damn, you're good. So, wow, that roll. Is that? You know what? You tell me what you see.
So, looking down the sights, I'm kind of adjusting all these little knobs and things like that. My sergeant, Briffix Copper Bar, has custom built this rifle scope for me, and I keep kind of adjusting these lenses and flipping them out. And it's kind of an odd gnomish design that the scope is. And then that familiar smile finally creeps across Nolan's face as he lines up his shot, and he's at the end of the scope. You can finally see what he's targeting down on. There's a tiefling who has himself an enchanted whip that also produces fire, much like his godly overlords there, and he's whipping these demon dogs that are in front of him, leading kind of this bestial force forward. And they seem to be kind of in the front of it all, and it seems like a good place to start. So Nolan just kind of sights in and waits for him to get in the perfect position to just drive it home right between the eyes.
That's so awesome. That's it. That's all I got. Cool. And so with that, should be now with you, Soul Taker. I believe it should be your turn now.
Yep. I got a 5 on my initiative. Soul Taker regains his composure and balance and finishes pulling his revolver out from the sheath hidden underneath his right arm. And as as his hand grasps around the handle, he can feel the warmth of the power that's just waiting. He's waiting to unleash, and as he does so, the myriad, countless whispers start happening in his head, whispering, telling him, trying to convince him to leave, telling him to run, telling him to fight, and he's been dealing with this for so many years that he just blocks them out as he steps up and takes aim with his pistol, and as he gets ready to fire, he says, "Santa Vosne," and runes that were not seen before start to slowly glow along the edge of the barrel. And as he does so, without even pulling the trigger, 3 quick bullets of energy fire, white lights, and they fire into the throng of the crowd. And did you post what the hit was?
Oh, actually, you know what? I apologize. I did not. That was my bad. Here, I'll do that right now.
Okay, and because the tieflings are so pressed in so tightly, all 3 white hot bullets find their mark, and they just tear through 3 tieflings. And when he sees the shots hit, he rolls back behind cover.
And as you roll back behind cover, you almost get run over by that same young ammo runner, and he's running, ducking. You hear that quintessential like right in front of him. You can see he has to duck as a round almost takes him. He zips back into near one of the tower areas to pull out another 2 boxes of ammunition as the operator, this tall woman, you see her starting to get more and more angry. You can feel the rage seething off her as she's just smiling and laughing, but her eyes are aflame with anger as this pulse, this clear wave of energy just seems to emanate off her, almost as like steam, and she's just firing and firing and firing, and you can see the light, the actual light from the barrels is glowing to a point where even the skies, which have begun to darken at the mere presence of this unholy army, is actually lighting up like a beacon. And this beacon is a rain of fire and lead, and it is screaming through the sky, tearing down more swaths of creatures. And now we're going to take it over to Maria.
So the camera pans away from all this action happening at the main gate, and it moves back to the inner keep, and on top of the wall stands Maria, the scope in her hand, given to her, luckily, by the lieutenant that works with Captain Nolan. She's standing there with the scope in her hand, and she's watching out over the field, and she moves it to the main gate. God damn that soul taker. We needed those mages there before all this happened. And she closes the scope. Lieutenant Ruvine! And he looks up, he's a captain. We need to get the mages there now. We need every mage that can cast Acid Splash, every mage that can do Grease. They will move in 2 squadrons. We will rain acid in front of the main gate, stop the Tieflings from rising. Any ladders they throw up, we will grease and we will freeze so they cannot get up here. Get them to the gate now. And the moment she says that, he begins to run off, and she puts the scope back into her pocket, and she begins to move, basically running to the main gate, and her squadron is gathering behind her as she's doing so, other than the lieutenant. And she'll be there in another round, and her other dude is going to basically gather the 100 mages to do the plan I just mentioned.
All right. That sounds very hectic, and you sound very hectic, and that's good because you should be.
I was gonna say, if it's all right, I think Lieutenant Silverwind would also start gathering the scouts.
Okay. Gather the rest of your unit, or yeah.
Yeah.
You see that large molten creature. You see it raise its 2 arms in the air, and then drop them. And the darkness overhead, this cloud begins to come closer and closer and closer still. And you hear one of the soldiers cry out, "Vrock! Vrock!" And you can start to make out the large leathery wings of the vulture-headed flying demons known as Vrock. And just out of game for a moment, for the most part, your characters do know a lot of the different types of demons, as a lot of the information was either given to you, either from the battlefield or by instructors, or even by other soldiers in the field. If you were to have a casual glance when you start to see it, you can see a good 20 or 30 Vrock in the air flying towards your position, basically. As more Tieflings begin to fire, and a lot of them start to become mowed down, you start to see some of the corpses actually begin to move. They begin to fly in the air and begin to slap together at this jumble of dead bodies, just twisting and gnarling, and suddenly, as they begin to meld together, they begin to change. They begin to change shape, and they begin to form and reform, the bones snapping together, becoming larger bones, and flesh being draped over it, and you see now a massive horned creature shaking its head. It looks like a minotaur gone so very, very wrong. And it stops. It stares at this creature, and the creature points directly at the door. You hear, "Sir! Caps! Caps, what do we do with that thing?" And it begins to start running towards the door. This thing probably stands. Now, keep in mind, your walls are 60 feet high. This creature stands about halfway, maybe slightly more than halfway, and it begins to run toward the door. And hey, more music. Why not? What are we gonna do, sirs? These things. And Roland, it is your turn, but both of the other troops are like, "What do we do about these rocks, sir? They're coming in. Who cares about that? Look at that thing!" And it's huge. I mean, it's 40 feet high. It's running. I mean, it's massive. It is a solid ball of muscle, and it is coming directly for that door.
So I think that at this point, it would just be a tangle of of emotions deciding what to do. But I know, again, instinct kicking in. I think that the first thing I would do is protect the doors. So how close am I? Would I be able to run along the side of the wall here, along the ramparts, and try to just like reload my gun and start just pumping stuff into this thing? I would also command my troops, which are now coming down. They're almost there. They're not quite to me yet, but I would command them to fire, and just all of us with shotguns.
What are they firing at?
I am specifically firing at the 40-foot creature as much as we can, if it's close enough.
Okay. Yes, it's definitely within range, and providing that your troops are they're all carrying shotguns. Shotguns have a decent range, and this creature is coming close. Your troops are begin to run towards and begin to start firing. If you want to make your attack roll and role play the result. Oh, I guess there's probably. Regardless of anything, you are definitely going to do damage to this thing. But well, again, it's a 40-foot creature, and you're shooting at it. It's not like you're necessarily going to miss.
Right.
How much it impacts is dependent upon it.
No, that's perfect. So can I roll just in case I crit?
Yes, by all means.
Okay, cool. Oh no. All right.
All right. Well, what happens?
So I'm running, and so I command the troops, and with hand signals, they understand. They see this thing running, and it's just so they begin to open fire. And as I do so, I stop and I take aim, and right as I do so, I think one random tiefling pops his head over the wall, and I basically just blow his head off, just totally absolutely blow his head off, wasting the shot on the giant creature, but creaming this tiefling who just happened to peek his head over the wall.
Oh man. That's extremely unfortunate. All right, and so next up we have Tarlock. I'm never going to get that name right.
Tar. Yep. So Tarlock will kind of sigh. He says, my work's never done. And he's going to fire his first shot at the guy he scoped in on, because why waste such a clean shot? And oh, Jesus Christ. This is a critical. I'll just throw that out there.
I'll tell you what. This is his AC.
Yeah, I got a 26, and it's a natural 20.
Oh, well, and then in that case, how do you make his tiny little head blow up like a shredded watermelon?
Yeah, Tarlock, he'll pull the trigger, and then without even paying attention to make sure that the shot made it, he already starts clearing the round and sliding the next round in, and then slides the bolt back in place and wheels it around to the giant. as he does so, like the camera kind of flashes over as the bullet kind of slow-mos into this guy's head, and he's got the whip back like he's about to strike these hellhounds in front of him, and then it's just like the bullet goes right through his head and rips into the dude behind him, like just superficial damage to the dude behind him, but it's enough to kind of startle the guy behind him, and it kind of causes a little clump-up action because one of the officers is down. Tarlock will wheel the gun around to the giant here, which is not a critical failure, so I assume I hit. I'll put the damage inside chat. And then he's just gonna call out for the rest of his turn. Oi, scouts, where are you? Come on now, don't be yellow.
Nice. So next up, we'll have Soul Taker.
Right. How far did you say we were from that gate? Are we fairly close to it?
You are close enough that you could walk over top of the gate. Like you are at the top ramparts at the dead center of the. I can even bring up the map.
Right.
No, I can't.
And how far away is that huge thing?
That huge thing is now coming up to like 60 feet.
Okay. So Soul Taker just is actually because he had turned and taken cover. When he turns and looks at what everyone's yelling about, even he is taken aback by what he sees, that huge monstrosity is, and for just ever a brief second, his hand shakes as he brings his pistol to bear upon it, and oh, so I did get a 1, nat 20. How's that? How does the nat? But that doesn't work on spells, though, right? You can't crit on a spell.
It does. No, you can crit on Eldritch Blast on a spell.
Yeah, so long as the spell has damage dice, it matters.
So I hit with all 3 rounds. So again, it's the same thing. The barrel glows and fires 3 white, almost glowing points of light, and I did.
And you see it kind of like twitch a little bit, but it is still starting to like get closer and closer. And at this point, the Vrock, you start to hear them cawing, screeching, clicking their beaks as they are even starting to get closer and closer. Some of the troops even begin to panic, and at least one of them just starts to run. He starts to run and abandon his post. Like he just throws his rifle and just begins to just bolt. And he runs, but he doesn't even take the stairs. He actually literally leaps off the top and just to his own death. Like he's that panicked, that feared. And next up is going to be Maria.
So Maria stops for a second in her run to the main wall, and she looks to the skies, and she sees this massive swarm of rocks churning like a thundercloud, stitching and flying and hovering their way across the battlefield to descend on the Great Star Fortress. She tut-tuts under her breath and releases the smallest sigh. She turns to again her lieutenant, who has returned now. She says, "New chains of plans. 50 mages, acid over the wall. 25 magic missile into the skies, 25 more freeze the ladders. And she continues moving, just relaying instructions the entire way, sending her squad to go basically amass or find every mage they can in this fortress to begin to assemble them to commit to the plan that she's trying to weave. And I will be officially in initiative next turn.
Okay. And the large creature, this Goristro, which is what you know it to be, begins to go tearing across and actually gets to a point where it hits the wall and smashes into the door miraculously, and I don't even know how, but the door holds, and it kind of reels back, shakes its head, and begins to kind of shoulder check and pummel against the side of the door. I need all of you again who are on the wall to make DC 15, or take 12 damage. As more rounds begin to ping and echo off, you can see even some of the crenellations are starting to dissolve, starting to hit and break against themselves. One of them even collapsing forward as so many bullets have hit this thing that it just can't stay up, and it begins to fall and tumble even into the tiefling lines themselves, killing at least one or two of them and rolling to a stop. More of them begin to fire out, and the Goristro now begins to try and pummel. He begins to pummel the wall, and he smashes with his two fists and almost dents in the door to begin with, and he's going to have a very tough time even trying to open that door. Anyone would, and he kind of shakes it off, and now we go back to Roland.
So, running across, trying to get closer to this beast after I failed. My squad has come upon the wall, and I get tagged. So I get shot in the shoulder. Just deep enough. It's not quite a graze. It's deeper. But certainly just reminds me of who we are and what we're doing. And so what I will do is I want to try to use my squad to take care of this thing. How do you want to do that in game? And how many of them are there?
So each one of you has 10 members to a squad.
Okay.
If you wish, because right now you guys have two critical problems that are happening. You have the Vrock, and you have this Goristro that is trying to beat down on these doors. Mechanically speaking, you can use your squad to complete this tasking. However, each tasking has in itself its own threat. So its own threat. So what you'll do is you will roll for me one follower cost die, which can be anything from a D4 to a D10, and that is how many people you will lose.
Oh, okay. So I roll to see how many people die.
Exactly, from your unit, and you can role play that out. If every one of your members die, that would be really sad. But I just ask you to role play the result.
Sure. So I would like to do that. Then I would like to try to take care of the threat of the you were calling it a Goristro?
Yeah, the Goristro. Yeah.
So I want to try to have. Well, would my guys be proficient in those manticores?
If you're not
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, generally the operators, the ones that are inside them, they know what they're doing. Like they've been using these things for years. They've practiced and everything else. Someone could figure it out, but they would be less effective in it than one of these individuals that are in it. And of course, in every crenellation is one manticore, and then these manticores are spaced at least 100 to 150 feet away from each other. So I mean, it's fairly far away, so they can, there's going to be no danger of them, like trying to like mix up. So it's the most effective use of their firing.
Gotcha. So what I would do is I would command, probably of the 10, I would command. Does it take one person to run a manticore, or more than one?
It takes one operator. It takes one runner to keep it restocked.
All right, then you know what? I would look at that. I would glance. I would see all of that, kind of calculating it after having just been tagged in the shoulder, and I would decide that we were going to just focus fire. So what we're trying to do is all 10 men and myself, shotguns on this beast trying to pound the door. So what do you want me to roll for that?
Okay, you're very close. So I tell you what, because you're so close, because this creature is so large, roll higher than this, and then roll this for damage, and then just roll, and then role play it out.
Okay, sweet. So
Nice.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to start talking while I'm rolling all of these, just because.
No problem.
I've never had to roll 9d8 in my life, and it's so exciting.
I know, it feels good, doesn't it?
Oh yes, an 8 on the first crack, baby, and a 7.
And then 6 ones.
Wow, Marquise. Wow. Jeez.
Wow, there's a 1.
Oh, you jinxed it.
I'd do it again if I could.
Wow. What a jerk.
Okay.
Yeah, and you see your rounds. Well, actually, no. You tell me what happens.
Well, I just think that it's a wall that is a wall of muzzle flares as you hear thunderous, repetitious mastery of shotguns. Because it's not that everybody just fires at once. There's a chain. My men know how to fire, and then while one is firing, others are reloading, so that there's a constant stream and it never stops. I want you to think of the boardroom scene in RoboCop when the ED-209 is just going, and it's just like Hamburger, and there are portions of this creature, it's just slug after slug after slug after slug, consistently in waves, just. So I'd imagine that every quote-unquote D8 that I was rolling was 2 shots. Just like. And it's just these pieces are shredding and pulsing and just ripping through this terrible creature. And we're just trying to. And then the smoke is clearing. What do we see?
You see this thing's back is just torn. It howls in pain and almost takes a reactionary swipe across the top. And what I need you to do is I need you to make a dex save for both you and your men. And this is.
All right, boys. It's never mattered so much. Yeah! Crit success for me. I fell off the deck. Oh, my man. Oh, well, I don't know. You tell me if this is high enough. So that might die.
Yeah, you're good.
Awesome.
And it swipes, and you can see it, like its fingers being so large and powerful. It smashes against some of the crenellations, like some of the stones, and just shooting off. But all of your men, who are instinctually, they know to follow you. They know when you move, they move. When you shoot, they shoot. And instinctively, as soon as they see you duck, they don't need a single moment to wait. They all hit the ground just as these huge bestial claws like smash over top of the crenellations. The stones are showering upon you like fallen snow, and
That's
it's
awesome.
just like smashing over, and it roars back, and it steps, and it kind of falters for a bit, but then it comes ahead and begins to charge back.
I love that. And I think as the hand is going overhead, I would love it if these guys were so in tune that they're on their backs laying there, and as this huge hand goes overhead, a couple of them pop off some shots, like shooting the hand, like they don't stop, you know?
Yep. Awesome. So, Tarlock, it is now your turn to not die.
Sorry, I spent all of his turn fishing out D10s for when I need those.
I wonder why.
All right. So Tarlock is seeing that the staying on the wall is just going to expose him to more danger than is absolutely necessary. Now that the Goristo has been pushed back, he's going to leap over one of the parapets that makes him drop essentially about a floor onto a staircase, and Tarlock is just full adventure hero mode, and he hits the stairs, kind of rolls, and then gets up, like shakes himself for a moment and sees his scouts, and he starts like throwing hand signals in the air, and the scouts start whirling around with him, and they all start covering behind boxes and things like that, and Tarlock takes aim, and you can hear the shifting of these different scope lenses. Essentially what I'd like to do is tell my entire unit to take out the Vrox above us.
Okay. Sure. Now, you're asking your unit to do it.
Yeah, they all have rifles.
Okay. As so they begin firing upward. This is what you need to hit. And if you decide, well,
oh, that's too beautiful.
Dude, we're rolling so well tonight, and that is the
you
best.
can barely see it.
thank goodness.
Yeah,
I
dude.
like it.
Oh,
I
man.
like it. All right.
It's gonna be so gross.
Yep. Roll me 4d10.
4d10, or am I doing the guns damage?
Oh, sorry,
times the
it's your
number of
whole.
units?
Yes, my apologies. Yeah, it would be.
I have 2 per person, 20 d10, firing towards the guy, then multiplied that by times 2, so it's actually 40 d10. Being
No,
the hail
actually, because what it would be.
the rifles are 2d10 apiece.
Oh yeah, that's right. Shit, it would be 40d10.
Yeah.
I tell you what. Let
me do this the easy way.
Yeah, please. Math is. I'm okay with easy math.
I will put it in chat if you'd like to go to somebody else, because it's just going to be the scouts are trained differently. Instead of being like a hailed trained mechanism, like once the scouts hunker down, like they aim in, and there's like a small click sound to each one of them as they like tap the side of their gun to let Tarlock know, and then Tarlock just lets out "Oi," and then all of them pull the trigger at the same time, and this like dust cloud comes up from their barrels, or rather gun smoke cloud comes up from their barrels as the shots just rain across the sky. Nice. And then they'll reload and fire again. So it's just like two waves basically to show what the critical is. Let me do some automatic dice rolling, because I'm not going to figure out 40 dice here.
Well, you know what? You could also just roll 20 d10 and just multiply it by
That's
2.
true. I've got that out at least.
I'm really okay with that. I'm really okay with you rolling 20 as opposed to 40, trying to add it all together.
I say he should roll 80 and just call it a day.
And just call it
Yeah.
in.
Just like, all right, we're done here.
I will put it in chat because I've got some math to do here.
Sure, not a problem. So after that will be Soul Taker.
Okay, so it's just a chaotic scene up there on the gate. The walls are shaking. Soul Taker's able to keep his feet beneath him. Bullets are flying by. Shards. The keep is stone.
Yeah, the keep is all the walls are basically two 5-foot thick stone walls built 10 feet apart, and then that space of 10 feet is filled up entirely with gravel and larger stones. So you are walking basically in between two large walls at the very top. So it's basically a filled giant wall of like 15-foot thick walls.
So as he's standing there, he sees his men finally joining him up on the parapet, and wordlessly he whispers into his second-in-command's mind. He says, "Get them shooting that damn thing," and I'm going to have my my folks also fire into the large minotaur creature.
Okay. So, roll for your attack.
Okay.
And I believe I already put the AC in, but that's yeah. This is it again, just in case.
So, as Soul Taker's men get up to the parapet and they actually see what has caused that, most of them, these are hardened soldiers, and still the color drains from their faces. A couple of them have trouble getting their weapons to charge so they can fire, and the few that do fire, they're just grazing shots that don't really cause much damage. Soul Taker yells. His curse is lost in the cacophony of all the other firing, screaming, and yelling, and that's going to be my turn. They failed miserably.
Okay. All right. So, I just want the folks at home to know that guns are OP, because when you have a group of guys rolling, and you roll a crit 20, and you roll for 252 damage with guns, because guns.
I did your meteor swarm for you, Marquise.
Almost.
Almost. And actually, from all the pinpointing shots, you see Vrock just flying, screeching, and just crumpling and crumpling and crumpling and crumpling to a point where you only see about 3 or 4 Vrock left. But the odd thing is what was in between them, and you see nothing but bats, just large amount of bats just fluttering quickly past the fortress, not even stopping to attack men, just going. As you are beginning to kind of celebrate your victory from all of these dead, extremely powerful demons, the only some of the Vrock left, one of them attaches itself to the further manticore. The guy, or the operator, trying to shake it off, trying to reach for a hand axe, and you see the Vrock put one large hand onto its head, snap his neck, and twist it straight off, throwing it back into the crowd of tieflings, grabbing its body and throwing it out, and essentially rendering it inoperable. It flies. The other one lands down onto the other manticore by the very tall woman. You see this manticore trying to snap back as she defensively puts an arm out, and what the hey? Sorry. That's what I just rolled. She instinctively grabs a shotgun that is nestled into the seat by her. The Vrock getting closer, snapping, 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 and this woman you can even see she just smiles as she kind of brings the shotgun up to the side of the Vrok's head, pulls the trigger, and you see nothing but a beak and a bloody mess just kind of fling off, and the Vrok just goes like completely limp. Its corpse on top of her. She shoves it off, screaming and holding her shotgun. Holding it with one arm, she pumps it and puts it back into the seat, kind of a seat holster beside her, and still continues firing, because that's what happens when you roll a nat 20 on that. As suddenly another troop you see coming up, he's got scratches and cuts and tears all over his body. Cap, you need to send men to the send men to the infirmary. A group of tieflings, displacer beast unit. They sent them into the clinic. They're killing the wounded and all the clerics. They're just sitting ducks, sir. You gotta help us, please. And then you hear another man running up. Sirs, it's the armory, sir. Quasits, these little bastard demons. They're in there. They're trying to take everything apart. They almost killed the quartermaster. They're setting fire to things. You've got to help us. You got to do something. But sir, the wounded, sir. The wounded are dead unless we have ammunition. You shut up. Sir, make a decision, please. And I will briefly take this out of initiative order very quickly, so that you can quickly, and when I say quickly, I mean quickly, make a decision.
So that didn't do anything that round. Can I do that then? Oh.
Sounds good.
With the orders. All right.
I
So
was gonna say, is this a group discussion, or is he just talking to one of us?
yeah.
He's talking, because since all of you guys are kind of together, at least the 3 out of the 4 of you, at the end of basically the next round, Maria would actually be there.
I should have been there this round because there's only been 2 rounds, correct?
Oh, I thought it was 3 rounds.
2.
My sincere apologies then. Yes, then you would be up there at this point in time. But I'm briefly pulling it out and giving you like 3 minutes of respite before crap hits the fan.
My vote goes to the healers.
Are you doing this in character or out of character?
Doesn't matter to me.
All right. So Maria, upon hearing this, she says, "First off, I am not a sir," and there's a bite to her tone. And she looks over to Captain Marshall. "Captain Marshall, I will handle things at the wall. You go to the armory. Captain Nolan, you go and you stay here and handle the rocks. Captain Soultaker, you go and you handle the wounded."
Will do. And me and the trench sweepers would scramble to the armory as directed.
Okay.
Soultaker would give a quick command to her second in command, and again it's wordlessly into his mind, and they quickly go down from the parapets towards the healing. Where's the healing again?
So the infirmary is located. Here, I'll actually bring up the map. Plunk, plunk.
Yeah, as this is going on, Nolan's gonna run around. He's got 3 dead. He's gonna collect up their coins as well.
Sure.
Not having time to actually string them, he just rips their necklaces off and just deposits them in a shirt pocket.
Okay. So yeah, so you see, if you have a look, so this is the infirmary, and this little small outbuilding here is the armory. Of course, these are the barracks and living quarters, the main gate. This is the inner keep. This is a wall. Unfortunately, this section here, because it's the same color, because MS Paint, is a little bit difficult to... This is an actual ground, this section here. It's basically a path that leads up to the main keep.
Oh, I asked it earlier in chat, and I didn't get an answer. Is this considered grasslands?
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, you could consider outside the fortress grasslands, but inside the fortress, I would really consider it more urban.
Okay.
So you have this moment. As a matter of fact, not only do you have this moment, but I tell you what, given that we've actually been playing for almost 2.5 hours, surprisingly, where has the time gone, my friend? I know
That went
it's
quick, man. Holy cow.
exactly. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you fellas the opportunity. I'm going to take a 5-minute break because I think my mother is visiting from the island, and I'm very excited to actually see her. I haven't seen her in a month and a half, so I wouldn't mind just saying hello. But she's more than happy. That said, go play your game and have fun. So I thought that was nice. And I'd like to see. I'll see her, and we'll meet back here in like 6 or 7 minutes, and then you guys can probably like unclench your sphincters right now and kind of relax for a second. All right.
Sounds good.
You've been watching the Ironhead Chronicles, The Siege, here on my channel, Mike the Piper, with my 4 incredibly awesome crew of players. And after this break, we'll see if they're still alive. So we'll see you in a bit.
Looks like I came back and the game was over. I'm assuming we're taking a 5-minute break.
Yeah, we are.
Alright. What a sad, sad time to blue screen of death. Gotta love this fancy laptop I have here. Did I miss anything in that 3 minutes I was gone?
No, we just decided that we were going to go ahead and take this moment to do the break.
Alright.
I'm trying to catch up on the chat. I had it actually on, but once the battle started, I was like, I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore.
I've been paying attention to the battle, but I've also been looking at the chat as well. Yeah, Mike keeps telling me not to split the party. But I keep getting challenges where I have to split the party, man.
You don't have to split the party. That's the choice you've made.
The thing is, if we don't split the party, it's like we lose like half the base anyway.
It's going to be greater cost and resources, though.
This is true. I believe in you guys not to die. And if you die, well, that's your fault, not mine. I take no blame.
I already lost 3 of my men.
You did. I was very sad about that. I really hope I'm ordered to command these wizards, because I really want these wizards to do my plan, because it was the perfect way to use those 100 people. Is to rain acid and to shoot magic missile.
I'm going to go get some water and use the restroom.
Right. I'll pull up the chat too, I guess. See what's going on. That sounds like a Prince song. A Prince song, Lionel? I don't think shooting magic missile and raining lightning is strictly Prince.
Sorry, that's the first thing that came to my head when you when you said that.
I need to see if Mike is going to let me do all my wizard shenanigans, because there's 100 wizards here for us to use, and I can make such effective use of their cantrips if he lets me.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And damn Soul Taker didn't want to get the wizards for me when I told him to. I had to go get Mind Blasted on the wall.
Oops. Sorry.
Oops. Can't help it, man. It was a demon god. Freaking Chepe Le Pepe, whose channel is Spawn Trotting for those watching and who need to watch it. They need to go subscribe to his channel. Freaking Chepe Le Pepe is like, just have them all cast blindness, man. If these wizards just need
that many
media
wizards
form,
could be pretty effective.
Exactly.
Of course, they probably would be like, we'd probably lose half of them in the first wave.
Yeah, but because think of it, like acid splash will affect 2 people per casting, so that's 200 dead tieflings in the first wave. Nope. If I could cast 100 meteor swarms, though, it would solve every issue. Every issue. Because that's 2,000. Yeah, that would be 2,000 D10 damage across the board.
I was gonna say we've actually got 3 problems right now. I said we've actually got 3 in our face problems right now.
Technically 4 because there's still rocks left.
Oh, I thought you dealt. I thought Tarlock dealt with the rocks.
When you use your unit, the unit takes care of the situation. So
yeah, that's why he lost 3 guys.
Yeah, all right, that makes sense.
We also have that key that you have that's a problem.
Yeah, but we can't. I want to address the key, but I can't address it yet until at least I'm able to stalemate this first wave of people.
You might not have a chance.
I might not have a chance, in which chance I will leave the war. It's not how war works. But if I can stalemate, because the way I'm having Maria think about it is that the first thing to do is to repel the initial wave. If it's successful, then we handle things and we press on. If it's not successful, then we need to completely change the plan, which I have plans for that as well.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's an initial wave. It looks like they're using tidal wave tactics.
Yeah.
What we want to do is we got to break it. That's what you're saying. I agree with Marquise. If you break that tidal wave, then they have to roll back, and then it becomes more of a siege.
Because I want to turn it into a traditional siege by repelling this first massive wave. And if that doesn't work, I have to go to plan B, and then if that doesn't work, I have plan C lined up in my head. I have a bunch of plans.
Shit.
I also have a very, very cool thing I want to do with this giant guy knocking at the door the moment I get a chance, which is why I'm glad you guys did not kill him.
I'd have been surprised if we killed that guy quickly. That's one badass demon.
Yeah. I want to see if these wizards know haste, and I want them all to cast haste on Turlock to see how fast and how many actions he will get from that.
I don't think it stacks.
I don't think it stacks, man.
But if it did, you'd be moving like 1,000 feet around, doing like 30 actually, you'd be doing 100 actions plus around. There's a lot of attacks and a lot of dashes.
He would go so fast that the rest he would like kill everyone that's sieging the place.
Yeah, I would be like, now Turlock, fly, and I would throw you into the middle of the army to fight that God King and be like, take him out.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with being the Blood Hunter is just like I don't want to throw out everything that I can do right away. So I'm like super low damage until I hit the switch, and then it'll be high damage output once that happens.
That's like the thing for my class, which I'm not going to say what the class is, but I have some special things I want to do with it, but I have a very limited pool of which I can do.
Yeah.
Because once I'm out for the rest of the session unless we get a long rest.
Yeah. Exactly. The same for me. I get like 3 spell slots as a warlock.
Yeah, until a
I
short
just
rest.
adjust my hit point pool, which is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
As it stands, I'm probably going to have to use my second wind.
Probably. Who did I send where? Because I completely see. Did I send Turlock to the armory or the wounded?
I'm going. Soul Taker's going to the infirmary.
Okay, so Turlock's still with me at the wall then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I hope you can handle a bunch of displacer piece, Lionel.
We're gonna find out.
I hope. What I'm saying is, I'm hoping you metagame that took the Hunger of Hadar spell to kill them all at once.
The what?
The Hunger of Hadar spell.
Oh.
He didn't, man. Damn
No.
it, Lionel. I hope you took a lot of fireballs.
This is my first time ever playing a warlock.
And I'm hoping, since Tim is hiding his class too, he has some like special, I don't know, like a Divine Smite, Meteor Swarm, something to come out with.
He's hiding his class, but he's just a champion fighter.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
All right.
So, question, Mike. Are those? Cause I don't think you saw it when I was putting it in the chat. Those 100 wizards that I'm trying to marshal. Will those actually be a thing, or are they just like set pieces, like fluff?
No, they are like you can use them, you can utilize them, and
All right. So will the orders I give them take effect then? Because I gave them a few orders. I'm just not sure.
yes, they're starting to gather up, but again, there was very little time. Most of them are scattered.
Yeah.
They're all like kind of forming up, and they're beginning to like start to go up and begin to start shooting, like doing what they do best. And of course, because there's a lot of one type of target, what's going to happen is the first thing is that they're going to be like hitting the first type of target with such a large force. This is like, what the heck do I aim for? And so I mean, like, they're whittling down these creatures, and they're whittling down the tiefling areas. But I mean, 25,000 is like, so far maybe 2,000 tieflings have just been obliterated in some fashion. And as far as
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And then as far as your soldiers are concerned, because most of them are starting to come up to the front battlements and just begin taking shots. With the shooting that the tieflings are firing back, you probably lost so far about 60 to 80 soldiers. Right. And I would ask, actually, if one of you wants to start writing down,
I will
mark down how many troops you have left as a result.
So we have 100 wizards who have not gotten there yet.
Yep.
Since I'm doing the whole strategist thing, I'll make sure to keep track of all of this.
Not a problem.
40. All right, and we have 100 wounded. Fucking wounded.
But so far, so good. It's not too overwhelming.
I'm enjoying it.
All right.
Yeah,
right
I think it's a blast.
I see what you did there.
I don't think Tim sees it.
He saw it. So, as we get back, 2 soldiers are requiring help. Now, keep in mind, and probably it's because I didn't explain it very well. You can stay on the wall and send your units out on their own, as you would have a second in command, and they can go out and do their own thing. So for example, if Tarlac, if you say to your unit, I need you to concentrate fire on, the Vrock, as you have, the Vrock are essentially done. But if you say, okay, you know what, take my guys and go send them to go take out the quasits, or send them to the infirmary, take out the displacer beasts, or I'm going to stay here and deal with whatever is coming or whatever they're going to throw at the front gates. You can do that. Your unit does not have to stay with you. It is your unit, but it's also a separate entity to give orders to as you see fit, as you guys are officers and you are captains. Is that probably a little bit better explanation than I gave you before, which was my bad, and I apologize for that.
No, that makes sense. And I think playstyle-wise, I think I would stay with my unit, but I also don't want to... Like, we're still playing a game, and you've done a lot of prep. So while there is the, player agency involved, I also don't want to break anything you have planned.
When I create something, you can break it, you can do whatever you want, because everything is fluid. Situations present themselves, and you guys take it wherever it goes, and wherever it goes, there are consequences to what you do.
Perfect. Awesome. And I'm super like that too. I just know that if you had one particular thing planned and we split the party and then we all die, I mean, that is one result, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm loving this. I think it's super cool. I love the flavor. I'm having a blast.
Right on, right on. So you boys and girl have a decision to make.
So Maria she's half paying attention to what you guys are doing now. She's already given what she thinks is the best order. She's not interested in whether you leave or whether you stay, but she thinks that you all do need to send at least your squads to handle those two individual things as we handle the wall.
I'm assuming it takes more than a round to clean up the Vrock, since I've assigned my unit to do that. Right?
Sorry, say again?
I said I assume it's going to take more than just what we've covered right now to finish clearing out the Vrock, since that's what I've assigned my unit to.
Yeah, with the amount of firing and pinpoint accurate shots that you guys your unit has been doing, you've taken out like a majority of the Vrock. They are almost all but broken away. They've like came up and are swooping down now to like take care of any of the other manticores and any of the other troops, picking them up, just throwing them off the wall, or trying to dive bomb and attack them. But for the most part, you've definitely broken the backs of the Vrock threat.
Okay, I'll do what Maria suggested and keep going after like the Vrock and helping clean up, because the sooner we get those things out of the way, the better.
Okay. And then for Soul Taker, what would you be?
Yeah, Soul Taker started leaving the ramparts, so he's still leading his men, and as he's probably running across that outer courtyard, any stragglers that he would see, he would order them to kind of add to the numbers of men that he has as we're rushing towards the infirmary. So maybe he would split the number. He'd grab like a few guys here and there and tell the others to get to the wall.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Roland?
I would similarly. I think Roland would take his squad and go down to the armory. As per the original suggestion. Especially that's just the style. We rove as a group, and I think that he would go down there and take care of business and then come back.
Right on. Okay, so what I'll do is I will now. So we're just going to take the camera. We're going to split it into three areas. We're actually going to pop out of initiative order, even though it's safe to say that with Tarlock and Maria at the walls, trying to keep everything at bay, and you will still be. I will still like interject, going back and to you guys every so often, because you still have to deal with threats. The first place I will go to is to Soul Taker. You eventually arrive at the infirmary. You see the large, somewhat L-shaped building, and the main doors have been kind of broken outward, claw marks trailing down the doors, and blood spatter is almost like running out of the building. You don't see any torches or any sources of illumination in there, and the only thing you hear is the very occasional scream coming from the front doors.
All right. So as Soul Taker is approaching the doors, he yells to his men, and that men that he's gathered, he says, "Deal with this threat quickly," in a like a stern, elderly voice, and as he's saying that, materializing in his hand is this almost spectral scimitar, and rising up from the blade is like this milky black, inkish smoke, and his pistol in his other hand, and he just leads the men into the room, just preparing himself for the carnage he's going to see.
Okay. And you see soldiers on gurneys and some in beds, and they have been opened wide by some sort of beast claws and attacks. I'll need you to make a perception check, and this is the DC. Oh, sorry, actually ignore that. That's the proper one. You see, even though it's hard to see, you can see kind of like an ethereal shape move, kind of coalesce into one of the creatures, and it almost looks at you quickly, hisses, and then kind of darts into the direction further into the building, moving down one of the L-shaped, moving down the longer one of the hallways.
Right. So as Soul Taker faces the men, he in all of their minds, his voice whispers in there, and he tells them exactly everything that he's seen. And I'm going to use the unit to clear the place, if that's at all possible. So is it one creature, or?
Oh, I'm not actually going to say if it's one creature,
okay.
if it's like 30 or 40, or if it's 100.
All right, so we're going. Yeah, so we're just going to go in there and deal with it. That's
Okay.
what we're going to do.
Okay, not a problem. As you begin to kind of clear through, you don't hear very much, but you do see a woman running up to you. Her clothes are stained bloody, and she has several cuts to her face. She begs you, please help us. We don't know where they are. We don't know where they're from. We don't know what happened. We were healing them at one moment. We heard a scream, and one of the corporals, he was clutching his stomach. His guts were spilling out. And suddenly, the lights went out, and creatures were attacking us. Oh, please, please, please. And she grabs your cloak, and she just does not want to let go. She's so frightened right now.
Soul Taker kind of like just brushes her hands off, and in a stern voice says, "Get yourself to safety." And then he pushes past her, and I guess he's just looking for something to shoot. Okay. And he kind of yells an order. Again, all my orders, Mike, will probably be through. He looks, and he does it through awakened mind. So he talks into the soldier's mind, and he just directs maybe, I don't know how many guys I have. So I have my 10 guys. I don't know how many guys I picked up along the way. But I'm going to start directing some of the guys to start bringing anyone that may still be alive to get them out.
And are you telling your unit to do that, or are you telling the?
No, I'm telling the guys that we picked up, and my unit we're going to go in to clear.
So you ended up picking up about 5 or 6 soldiers, and as you tell them, they immediately rush into action, and they start to like go into rooms. They start to pull whatever wounded they can, and they ask, "Well, where are we taking them to?"
To get them out of this place. And he kind of, what Soul Taker just quickly starts to his anger starts to rise. He has very little patience for anyone that just can't deal with simple orders. Something that he would see as just kind of self-explanatory. Get them out of here. And then he pauses a moment. He says, "Get them out of here." And in that same stern voice. And then he says to his men, "Let's go," and he starts heading off after that thing that he saw.
Okay. So the troops are just like, well, let's get them to the keep. Yeah. No. Let's get them to the keep. So they start filing them into the main keep, where the officers' quarters and the kind of the main HQ of the building is, and they start grabbing any clerics, anybody hiding. Occasionally, though, you do hear one or two screams, some gunfire here and there as you begin to walk away, go down the hall. You see again that same creature that you've seen. This one, you can tell it's the same one because one of its kind of these strange kind of like tentacle-like things bursting, like coming out of its shoulder. One of them is actually missing. It snarls at you and kind of on shaky legs begins to hop and run, and it kind of runs down, but you see it kind of like one moment it's there, the next moment it's there, the next moment it's there, and it's kind of just, it's almost like an ethereal form kind of moving. You can half tell whether it exactly is, and then it kind of ducks into another room at the end of the hall on a far right.
So what I'm looking at is like a hallway with multiple rooms?
Yeah, there's a hallway with multiple rooms, and again, there's creatures at the far end.
Okay. So I'm imagining that because we're a military unit, one of the things we do is we'd clear rooms like you, if you ever seen like the training videos, that's what we would do. We would clear a room, so we'd clear the doors and just check the rooms as we go, but we would be making our way down that hall.
Okay. So you clear the rooms. You see a couple of more people try to have doors that are barricaded shut. You can tell that there are people on the other side of them. I assume like your men would tell them to get to safety, so
right.
they start pulling out. All in all, you notice that about 15, 20 clerics have basically moved out, and any wounded that are still able to at least walk or at least slightly move are being either dragged or kind of helped out. And as you get to the final room, the right-hand side, you notice that you kind of like peek in, but you notice that it's actually a large room that kind of switches back down the hallway, and it almost looks like a main ward. On the other side of the rooms that you've been checking, there's like virtually no other doors. There's like one door at the other side, and for the most part, this seems to be a ward of some sorts.
Right. So Soul Taker one more time says to his men, "Be on your guard," and they all start. They just charge their weapons and get ready. They're all. I have one spellcaster, so he has a spell ready to cast, and we're just gonna scan the room. I'm looking for that ethereal tentacled creature.
Now, are you inside the room now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as all of you go inside the room, you hear the growling from this creature. It is on its haunches, and its back is bristled, and its one good tentacle is kind of just, it seems to kind of be floating in the air, waiting, almost like trying to detect your heat and your other like basically like any sort of scent or anything like that. And then suddenly you hear a growling behind you as one of the other creatures kind of begins to like phase in, wink in, and it is also on its haunches. Its fur raised up, but its skeletal, sickly structure is poised, ready to attack. You hear a grr. You hear more growling to your left and your right as more of these creatures are now hopping on the bed. In total, you see now 15 displacer beasts are now kind of surrounding your men, and they're all growling, and they're all hissing, and they're all ready to attack you as you had fallen for this creature's ambush.
Nice.
And now we're going to take the camera and we're going to switch it over to the armory as Roland is running with his men. What are you doing as you are running to the armory, as it is one of the furthest buildings from the
So I think the main thing would be that this is going to sound odd, but I don't know that we would try to pick up any additional men, just because of the way we work, the way we function, So you're thinking there's 10 trench-coated men, and led by Roland, who takes from his satchel and he puts on just this very standard issue looking World War I style gas mask. And then all of his men do the same, just putting on these masks. And maybe this is to shut out the outside world. Who knows? Maybe this is to focus. Maybe they have some sort of arcane power. But these masks make them faceless. They make them machinations of war. It makes them machinery, and they all wielding these large shotguns. And so as they approach the armory, they would disperse in such a pattern so that they're covering their backs, but also are prepared for what's ahead of them. So what would they see as they approach the armory?
I almost caught myself being muted. Anyway. So as you approach the armory, you begin to see people running out. A couple of soldiers or at least helpers that were in there are firing into the actual armory itself. You hear tiny squeals, but you can't see much of anything, and you see creatures kind of almost like strange insect lizard things, these little tiny demons beginning to crawl up and over like cockroaches on a wall, and they begin to crawl into the windows and around the doors. You see one soldier firing, shooting, and you see some of these little creatures just explode into these kind of blackish, purplish mists until a creature jumps on his shoulder, and then another, and it begins to weigh him down, and they begin to bite and scratch and claw at him, and he begins to just try and wipe his face and try to throw these creatures off of him. But it's for naught, as these creatures continue to bite and scratch until finally he just succumbs to his wounds, firing one last shot at the building itself and collapsing to the ground. Seeing the 10 of you, or the 11 of you, these two creatures hiss at you and begin to hop back up and shoot back into the armories. You hear people yelling for help inside, and you start to see the telltale signs of flames beginning to kind of pop out of the windows and a couple of other areas as well.
All right, so what we would do is we're the trench sweepers. So the derogatory name is they call us the canaries, that they put in the mine to see if it's dangerous. So we go in, and I go first because I don't expect my men to take a bullet. If someone's going to take a bullet, it's going to be me. And so from there, I go in first, and we are trained to work as a 360-degree unit. So eyes behind, eyes in front, eyes on left, eyes on right, constantly sweeping, constantly moving. And if there is a threat, it is the sound of just thunderous shotguns. No pausing, no waiting, no identification. Just if there's a threat, it's just muzzle flares, blood, and smoke.
And these creatures, you see a lot of them just blowing off. Even ones that are like, they're crawling out, and as soon as they see you, they kind of look horrified as just one of them just meets the 8 hardened pellets of your firearm. Like, as they just leave, and even in slow motion, they begin to slowly open and spread and flying around as the creature's almost staring dumbfounded as like a large massive hole, like the entire top of its head just blows right off, and the creature just fucking falls and just like thud, hits against the ground.
Perfect. That's so awesome.
And the doors are opened, and you still hear more individuals like crying out for help.
Okay, well, we follow the cries and neutralize the threats.
So inside this building, it's a fairly large building with many windows, a very nice brick structure. You walk in, and immediately you see kind of like a large open area with many racks of rifles, pistols. You see some ammunition in another area, and you see some of these creatures with like fire, and they're casting, like they're basically lighting the place up on fire. There are boxes upon boxes of ammunition, and you hear one person, "Help, please help me! Oh, please hurry!" And it is coming from you see kind of like a steel caged area with kind of a little open window for people to basically talk to, and that seems to be the quartermaster's kind of area or office.
Awesome. So I would approach that, and what would I see?
You'd see kind of an older fellow in wearing kind of like just plain robes. He's clutching his shoulder. You could definitely tell a large chunk has been taken out of him. Even his cloak is a bit singed as well. He's leaning down. He's trying to stand up, but you could definitely tell he's succumbed to many wounds. He seems to be human. You think he kind of appears human, and he's definitely kind of in the autumn years of his life. Probably at least. You're thinking 70, 70 plus. He looks and he sees your telltale mask, and he just reaches up. Please, sir, help! You need to help.
And how can I help you? What do you need? What's wrong?
I don't know, maybe it's the large bite out of my shoulder. Perhaps it's the fact that this place is on fire and there's lots of ammunition right there. Is there anything you can do to either save this building, save the ammunition, or save me? I don't care which one you pick. I'm an old man, for gods.
And so, and actually it would all be through the gas mask. But it would be. I think we can take care of all of that. And so you notice that what I would do is I would take half of my men, dispatch them, put out the fires immediately. Don't let the ammo burn, and they would know those 5. Is this cage locked?
The cage is locked. But you can tell that the lock has been severely weakened, mostly because of either the heat or the creatures that have been like clawing at it and trying to break it.
Perfect. So I would have the other 5 set up a perimeter in this room, facing outward, so that anything coming in would just get decimated. And then I would walk into the cage, and I'd like to do just a good old-fashioned medicine check.
Okay.
So leaning down, say, "Listen, old man, I'm not a doctor, But what I can do is stop this bleeding. Oh, nice. So on a medicine check, it is a...
So, actually, you tell me what happens.
So I think what I would do is I would tear a piece of his cloak, I'd ball it up, and I'd jam it in the wound. Just immediately trying to get something in there to just stop the bleeding. I'd push him up against the wall so that he was sitting sort of up. I'd lift his hands. Keep your hands above your head if you don't want to bleed to death. Keeping his hand his hands like this. And then I'd go into my pack and I would grab some sort of compound, whether it's just good old-fashioned battle, like salt or some kind of agent that's gonna just stop up the wound. And I crushed it in my hand and sort of dust it into his wound, and I'm sure it hurts.
And he does. He cries out in pain. You're the worst doctor I've ever. Well, you have stopped the bleeding, though. Listen, I'm glad you're here. We need to get out. We need to get out. We need to get everyone back to the keep. If these little bastards are any indication of whatever the hell is out there, I could only imagine the troubles that we are in currently. How bad is it?
Yeah. And I would pull the mask up. All right, what's the fastest way out of here?
Well, back through the front door, but wait. And he grabs a key from his, just kind of from around his neck. And he kind of looks, and you see a safe, but a safe that you have, this is something that is a very complex, very powerful, with sigils, glowing sigils all around it and in front of it. Listen to me. You need to get these men to safer areas. These walls will not last long. And he's unlocking it, and he opens it up, and he picks up very carefully this steel box that he hands to you. Take this. Put it somewhere safe, because we are going to need this. I don't care where you put it. Somewhere safe.
All right. And Mike, how big is this box?
The box is approximately, let's say, about 16 inches by 10 inches by 5.5 inches.
Perfect. So I'd slide it into my satchel. I'd pull my mask back down. All right. Back to the front door.
Okay. Now, in the meantime, roll me 1d4. Okay, that is how many men of yours have fallen to these creatures, as they are relentless in their gnawing, biting, scratching, and otherwise, either that or even setting fire to them. You have lost 3 men during this fight. The fires are out. The ammunition is safe for now. However, you will need, or at least you should, try and move this ammunition to a safer area, especially since no one will be here to guard it in case it is basically ransacked.
Sure. So
Plus,
I would... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, plus, this is your entire fort's ammunition.
Okay. So I would instruct my men to grab as much as they could in pairs. And so that would be my command to them. So the 5 who were sweeping the rooms, 3 of them dropped. The other 5 that were with me were moving back out. Of course, it's devastating to see 3 of my men dead, but that's, that would be the command. Take as much of the ammunition as you can in pairs. We need to get it out of here. And they would know. They'd start loading it up, one hand on a shotgun, one hand on a crate of ammo.
And they begin to file it out and bring it inside the keep as well. And at that point, we're now going to bring it back to the front of the gates. The Garistro, the large demon, angry that it has been wounded so badly, it is now pounding on the walls, grabbing at men, throwing them off the walls, and otherwise trying to punch its way through this door, which is no small feat for any creature, no matter what size it is. Also, the Vrock are still being a menace. They're still trying to fly around and do its own thing. And what I will do, though, is I will actually ask the 2 of you to roll initiative, and then we'll continue with whatever it is you guys plan to do. Okay. So then we'll definitely... that's unfortunate. We're definitely going, obviously, with Maria.
All right. So first the camera pans down away from the wall, away past the Gasho and into the Tiefling army. There's an officer standing there. He has 2 flaming swords in his hand. He looks up to the wall and speaks, "Gugrajira!" in Abyssal. A bullet goes flying from one of the Tiefling guns, and it hits the parapet right beside Maria's face. She's watching all this happen impassively. "Lucian, Manticore," and she snaps her fingers, ordering one man to pilot the Manticore that was disabled when the Vrock ripped its rider out and threw him to death. And then she looks down and she sees the massive creature pounding away at the walls, and she closes her eyes and she begins to remember. She remembers the Elam family that she descends from. She remembers the comforts of home in New Worcester. She brings up all these memories of her childhood, and just for now, just temporarily, she turns them all into white noise. And from that white noise comes a mental power from deep inside that when she opens her eyes, those gray jewels of hers are glowing violet. And she looks down to this massive creature beating on the walls. She doesn't say a word. She merely directs with her gaze that great power into this creature's head. Do me a favor and make an intelligence save at disadvantage for him.
Okay. Wow, yeah, definitely does not pass under any circumstances.
10 words fill this creature's head that it believes to be true and that it must follow. The words that Maria plants are as thus: "The gate is below you, and you must destroy it."
And, sorry, she plants it into...
Yeah, how the feature works, I can read it to you word for word. Let me scroll up real quick. As an action, you target a creature within 120 feet, must make an intelligence saving throw. On a failed save, for the next 5 minutes, I can put a statement into its head, and as long as it understands, it will believe that statement and try to do it.
And you're doing this to the large creature?
Yeah.
Okay. The words kind of you see the creature kind of shake its head and kind of look around, and it stares back at the door and just shrugs and keeps on pounding upon the door, as it does not understand, because you spoke to it and you gave it which...
Yeah, it was in common the first time. Yeah.
So yeah, it does not understand.
And at that, she tisks under her breath, and she looks back over to where Captain Nolan is. And she says to him, and she throws it as both a thought and as a scream to ensure that she hears it, "Do not take him down just yet." I'm going to go ahead and let him take his turn. That's my action.
Okay.
Nolan is casting out shouts to his troops to kind of point out different Vrocks that need to be brought down. He's going to come up to Lieutenant Winifield's Silverwind. Blackbourne, Smith, Garrison, they're all dead. This is a mess, girl. And he's just going to continue to target Vrox. And they're just going to continue doing what they've been doing.
Okay. Then roll me an attack. This is your AC.
Okay. There you go.
All right. So deal your damage and roll play it out.
Okay. Yeah, he's just gonna release off a single round, and he's spending most of his turn actually just directing the troops to continue to provide cover fire, basically. But ideally, what he's attempting to do is, because the Vrox are a couple 100 feet off the ground, if he can do enough damage to them, they should start failing their capabilities to fly, and hopefully the fall is what kills them, because the damage that they're putting out is not enough really to kill these things.
Yeah, and as you keep firing at them, I mean, they're taking hits, they're colliding into each other, they're hitting walls, or they're falling. I mean, you are whittling them down to now a point now where there are only 4 Vrock left. Okay, so from the original 20,
another round of
exactly, you take another round at it, and you've pretty much got them down pat. And I will make. Wow! They actually, the individual actually made it. I've never actually rolled. I've never rolled both a 19 and a 20 on a disadvantage before. So looks like things are going to pick up, which is unfortunate for you guys, but that's okay. The Garistro, enraged, grabs the door and is actually about to punch as hard as it possibly can through it, when all of a sudden you see it stop, and it kind of pokes, took his head to one side, and as it turns, you don't see what it's looking at, but it's looking down, and it reaches down with one of its arms and holds up, and actually you see it toss something up onto the ramparts. What it tosses, you see a thing that you've not seen before. It is a woman, and it is not. It is a woman with the lower half of a great serpent, and her 6 arms, each one holding a razor-sharp sword. It twirls and looks and smiles. You see a group of soldiers that she has landed near, be all holding up rifles and Tommy guns and shotguns and pistols, all surrounding her. And she smiles, and she almost looks at you, Maria, and she winks. Suddenly, her swords, her blades are aflash. One sword goes into one man, another sword reaches upside down through the head of another, and just swords flashing like glittering, just like a glittering jewel of these swords swirling around, and suddenly 6 men are dead, and the one who was never even able to fire a shot is just standing there, holding his gun, trying to aim. And she kind of puts her head to one side, and you see her kind of frown a bit as her tail slowly begins to curl around him, and suddenly her muscles flex, and you can hear the man's bones breaking, shattering into the skin of his flesh, snaps, and he lays motionless and falls to the ground. And suddenly her 6 bloody longswords are now pointed at you, and she begins to advance. And we are now back. Well, we were going to be back up at the top of the round, but I was going to actually shift the camera. However, what I will do, or do you still want me to make that disadvantage intelligence check, or do you want to hold off now? And
I'm going to hold off on it.
Right on. Then what I will do is I will take the camera and I'm going to shift it over to a group of soldiers who are very unfortunately surrounded by a very large group of angry displacer beasts. And as the creatures begin to growl and hiss, and all of these tentacles begin to slowly move kind of left and right, they begin to get a sense of what you are trying to do. Go ahead and roll initiative for me, and I'll roll initiative for them. Congratulations, you beat me. I actually rolled a 2. So you get the first shot off. Even though these creatures are all waiting, they almost seem like they're waiting for you to make the first move. And of course, not understanding what you are capable of, they hopefully have made a very foolish mistake.
Right. So, so we're in the room. So as the camera pans in, it really just you see Soul Taker and his unit of men, and they're kind of in this defensive circle, realizing that they've kind of fallen into this trap. And so I imagine we've moved. How far away from the doorway have we moved?
You moved approximately 20 feet. You're now 20 feet from the door. You guys are all kind of like in a bit of a circle, which I assume would be, if you're going to clear a room, you're going to kind of be back to back as you guys are moving into the room, making sure.
Right.
And that's when these creatures all popped up onto all the ward beds that are down there, and they're all just staring at you.
Cool. So the moment that they pause that's when we just Soul Taker and his unit just unleashes hell on them, and they just start opening fire. You know, you just hear Tommy gun going off. Soul Taker starts firing his pistol with his arcane power, and let's see, Goblin, his one of his men that's has an innate way with magic, just unleashes one of his most devastating spells into the group of cat-like tentacled creature. I imagine I know what they're displacer beasts.
Yes, you do. Yeah. You would know, because the tieflings often use them much like a canine unit. So they use them. They use them to displace into enemy trenches. And
we've fought these before, and having fought those before, and Soul Taker just says, muffled a bit by his mask, he says, "We've fought these before. You know what to do." And so we just kind of some guys take a knee, and they just start unleashing fire. So I guess we're going to use it as a unit tactic rather than Soul Taker doing an individual action. Is that how it works? That's how you're running it, Mike?
So how you can do this is you can take, as you are the hero and the player character, you take your own action. You also take an action for your unit. So you're going to roll against hitting these tieflings with disadvantage. Then your unit is going to roll against hitting these things, or
with disadvantage.
Displacer beasts, with disadvantage.
Yeah. Okay. So what Soul Taker does is, as a group, they start moving, pressing slowly back to the doorway, and as he does that, in a foreign, lost language, he says, "Isa Sata," and the floor just opens up and starts to bubble, and these black wreathing tentacles just start sprouting up in this 20-foot area, just in front of where his unit is. and it's like just shy of them, so nothing can. So he's at least stopping something coming from there. But he's also trying to capture as many of them as he can.
Nice. So the actually you will have to pardon me because I was an idiot and I did not pay attention to that. But this is the
it's Evert's tentacles. So I will cause anything that's within the area that I cast the spell is going to take. They can make a dex save.
Okay. Now, is it taking a dex save to take half damage? Like if it succeeds?
No, if they succeed, they don't take any damage.
Okay.
But if they don't succeed, they take damage and they're also restrained.
Okay. Not to do this, but I'm going to treat these things as one thing because I don't really feel like rolling a d20 15 times.
Yeah, that's fine.
I like you, but so they definitely you see them kind of crouch and they're waiting, and as soon as you kind of throw your arm up for these large black things to start trying to grab a hold of them, they instinctively leap. You see them leap, but either they leap up, they almost appear sideways and kind of shoot off to the side and growl at you, and the creatures now are going to begin their attacks.
Okay.
Ooh. And they begin to, you see them kind of leap, and each one of them leaps up onto kind of close to one of your men. Some of them kind of move out of the way because they remember how these creatures fight, how they operate. They leap. A lot of these creatures are leaping into midair. One of them does kind of catch one of your guys and seems to do about probably a good 14 or 15 damage. It really gouges him up. Its tentacles kind of shoot up and slap into, piercing through his armor, pulling him close to this creature while it rakes him across the chest, kind of hurting him quite badly. He seems to stagger back, and that's it for that. So it's the action's now on you.
Okay. So now I make a disadvantage attack with my man.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I rolled a 10, and I don't have any stats for my guys, so I don't know if I would have enough to hit him if I added something to that.
What? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you know what? Because you don't have stats, it'll just be then a straight 10. So it's
okay, so
everything is plus
just
0.
Okay, cool. That'll work. So bullets just fire, so we don't really cause any major harm to them as we're firing at them.
No, you do not.
Okay.
So they so you're trying to fire. You see a lot of them kind of and again, it's that ethereal nature. So they're almost positive that they're hitting the displacer beast. They aim down, they fire, and it's just hitting air. As the creature's actually suddenly to its left, it leaps. All of them begin to leap again, and now a lot of them begin to start raking. One of your men actually screams as the creature latches onto to his throat, tears it out, and he falls to the ground.
Oh shit, Benny, no!
Oh, Billy.
All right, cool. So my turn's done. Or do I attack again, or?
Well, now, did your men attack, or did you attack?
Yeah, that was my men. My spell was the tentacles was my spell, so that was the hero. That was Soul Taker's turn,
Okay,
and then
gotcha.
my men was the mist. They didn't really kill anything, didn't hit anything.
Gotcha. So yeah, but the Displacer Beast attacked, so now it is your turn to get up there. Because how the initiative roll is going to work, it's going to be you, your men, then the Displacer Beasts.
Okay.
Because I rolled poopy.
So am I going again, or is it going to be somebody else's turn?
So I just went as as the displacer beasts, and I took down one of your men. So one of your
Okay.
men is now dead. If you want to mark
Yeah,
that
I
off,
did.
and then and now it is back up to a new round. So you go first, then your men. So you roll for your men, and then it'll be my turn.
Okay. So my lowest roll at disadvantage on my 3 attack rolls with Soul Taker was a 14. So I'm not sure if.
Yeah,
Okay.
that hits. Nice.
All right.
Roll your damage.
All right. So Soul Taker, desperate, hearing the screams of one of his men, some sweat starting to run down behind his mask, starting to question whether or not they're going to get out of this alive. One of the beasts leaps at him, and he just fends it off with his spectral scimitar, and he fires 3 quick rounds at it with its eldritch magic, and it tears into the beast's flesh, and its ethereal blood starts spattering on the ground, and it howls in pain. And he says, "Back to the door!" he yells as he hears men firing their guns. And that's a disadvantage. And they're going to miss again. So again, they're firing, but not, whether it be panic or just not being able to find purchase with their shots.
And as you see, as you tell it, as your men are starting to back up against the one door, the displacer beasts are actually hurting them in the opposite direction. They're beginning to kind of circle in and around. Half of them are pushing your men in one direction, while the other half are starting to close in. So they try and leap, but because of the noise, it seems to really kind of shake their heads, and they try and leap, but they just can't seem to make it. They just can't they completely flounder and everything. So it is definitely back up to you.
So again, whether it be desperation or just his military training, he again fires 3 more of his eldritch shots into the same beast. I'm pretty consistent on the damage.
Yeah, no kidding. That's actually that's actually quite interesting. You take it out. Let me know, how do you take this thing out?
Okay, so he just fires at it again, and the bullets just rip through it, and it turns its head to growl at him, and as it does, the last spectral bullet hits it right in the head, and it takes the top of its head off, and then it just kind of flops on the ground, the tentacles twitching a bit.
Nice.
And then a couple of his men closest to him, seeing him taking him one, says, "Taker's taken one. Now we can do it, boys." And no, they can't. So they fire again. They're hitting the walls everywhere. They're shooting where the beasts were just a second ago. And I'm going to stat my guys up for the next session, if there's any left.
That might not be a bad idea.
Yes.
However, so with all the firing that you've been doing, these creatures are getting jarred because they're not used to such loud noises. A firearm discharging, especially, in this case, 9 or 10 firearms to start discharging in a room like this is jarring for these creatures. You see them beginning to wink, and they start to kind of move a bit less because it's so loud, because their hearing is very sensitive. least that you can discern. You see a few of them begin to kind of duck out, but again, a few of them are poised and more angry and are ready to attack you again. And another round, they begin to, like, you see a few of them leap up. Another one of your men is trying to fight one off, but this creature is it's a rather large creature, about the size of an African savanna lion. He's trying to fight it off, but it just pushes him down. The tentacles kind of like smack into the side of his throat, and the spines of it just drag, and you see him pull, like, just for his carotid arteries, just like not carotid arteries, jugular, just tears right out the sides of his throat, and he bleeds out in a matter of seconds. You now have another man down, and they begin to snarl, and the creatures begin to advance, pushing your men back towards your back, and it is now on you.
So,
just saying, if you have a spell, now would maybe not a bad idea to. I'm just gonna throw that one out there.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of hoping a few of them would get caught in those tentacles that are flapping around, because they're still there in that area. Soul Taker reaches out and points with his scimitar at one of the one with the missing tentacle. He spots it, and he reaches out with his scimitar, and an arc of lightning, much think of like a Sith from Star Wars, and it just lightning lances out and strikes at the creature, and he's going to cast Witch Bolt. So let me roll up the damage. Well, I gotta hit it first. Let me hit it first. And the lightning arcs, and it hits where the creature was maybe just a second before that, lighting one of the pallets on fire.
And it begins to burn. Actually, you know what? So it begins to the bed begins to burn and catch up pretty quick, and the next bed begins to catch up really quick, and other beds begin to start smoldering and light on fire, as well as you begin to as the straw in the beds, and some of them, the ones that actually have feathers, just ignite. This room is starting to become heated very quickly. You hear the soldiers you got to take people out are still pulling people out, and you hear, I think we've got the last one, and they just duck out. They get out of the infirmary. The fire is starting to grow, and now your men will be taking their turn.
Okay. Maybe they can do it. Third time's a charm. 13?
Bang on the money.
Oh, good.
Huzzah, I hit something. So now, but the best part is now because you've got 8 men left.
Yeah.
Roll me 16d8. Or no, well, I guess it depends on what you've got, right? So on average, roll me 12d8. Because you don't have them statted out. If you had them statted out, I would say give me the full damage. But
right. Okay. 12d8, right? So they finally, maybe their nerves finally settle, or they've finally remembered the last time we fought just one of these creatures before. We've never fought this many. So they start so what they actually do is they actually center their fire on one of them, and they just lay into it, and bullets just start ripping at its flesh, and with that they feel, you know, gain a little bit more of their confidence.
And you just, like, the rounds just pepper this one creature, and it almost explodes into a red mist, and it just like splatters all over the place. The other displacer beasts, seeing it, kind of back up a bit and realize that maybe you're kind of now a threat, and they begin to kind of back up. As a matter of fact, roll. Oh, nice. You see a lot more of them now. They're starting to back up, partially because of the fire, partially because of the fact that you definitely hit them, and they're kind of not used to being hit, and they just start to run. And you see only about 3 or 4 of them left, and even then, without the rest of them, they start to look kind of very nervous, and they begin to kind of back up. So it is now up to you. What is it you wish to do?
Again, Soul Taker and his men are just going to focus on 1 or 2 of them at a time. How many are blocking us from the doorway?
There's now. Keep in mind, there are 2 doors. The one of them, you've got 4 of them left. They're all kind of standing together, trying to fight you as one. But the other door is now clear. The other displacer beasts have like run off, and they're not touching this.
Yeah. Soul Taker yells, "Run for the door!" And he lets off 3 shots from his pistol and starts to move towards that door. Right. So I'm 13 hits, right?
13 hits.
Okay. So yeah, all 3 of his will hit.
Nice. Nice. So now, are you going to aim it at one, or are you going to try and aim it at like just 3 of them at random, like just?
I'm probably going to aim. He's probably going to aim it at one, probably the lead one.
Okay.
And so let me see. And then his men.
And with okay.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to get this out of the way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they hit 2. Nice.
Nice. Yes.
And I'll describe it in a second once I roll up the damage.
Yeah, I think when it comes to this thing, you probably want a calculator with you. It's like, hey, roll me 64 d10s, and let's see what we got here, okay?
Oh God. 36, 48.
I can't remember who I was talking to. I was actually talking to someone. They said, "Oh, so are you gonna have a lot of dragons in your world?" I'm like, actually, yes, but you're not gonna see them very often. They're very, very hidden. And the reason being is because of this. Like, if you had 15 people with firearms firing at a dragon, and you throw magic in there, you can fell an ancient red dragon in like what, 4 or 5 rounds. I mean, plus 3 shotgun of dragon slaying, which sounds pretty metal, but anyway, that's besides the point.
So Soul Taker yells to run for the door, and as he does so, he turns and fires 3 rounds at one of the displacer beasts, and his men also just open. His remaining men just open fire, and then they start making a dash.
All right, and the rounds just impact, blow it away, and I mean the thing just falls. You guys book it out the door, down the hallway, as flames begin to kind of crawl through the whole infirmary. Doesn't take long for the whole infirmary to go up, and it's just fire and smoke from this building that is now collapsing under the heat of its own fire.
So one of the things that I think Soul Taker and his remaining men would do is just watch the building, and if any of them come out, they would just try to kill him, shoot him.
Okay. And I mean, you do see one one or two of the stragglers kind of popping out, and your men through a fair bit of trying do take it out. And now we're gonna take the camera and we're actually gonna move it. Actually, no. You know what? At this point, with your infirmary burnt to the ground, half your clerics, or should I say, half your healers dead. Some of them are inside the keep. Most of your ammunition is safe, which is good. And now that two of our heroes, because we split the party, have to deal with a what's called a Marilith, which is a demon that you just don't ever want to mess with, period. But we're going to mess with it because, hey, guns. We're actually going to stop it there. And I can tell that I think we're all, although I'm having tons of fun, I'm getting a little tired. I think we're all getting a little tired, especially you guys who are in Central and East Coast. I mean, I'm lucky it's not quite as late, but you gentlemen have been absolute troopers. And every pun intended or no pun intended, however you want to take that one. But thank you very much for coming down and play, especially as I've never played a game this late before. So what I'll do is I'll just do the outros really quick, and we'll, of course, start with Lionel. Lionel, if you want to do all the plugging with all the things.
Well, it was a blast. It was really fun. I was a little anxious, not knowing what to expect. But I really like the way you set the tone very early. Really nothing to plug. Just looking forward to the next game. All I guess I would say is so playing with some great guys with some great channels. If you're not subbed to them, you should.
Right on, man. Thanks. Next up, Chris. Take it on, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a blast. As normal, there's a part 2 for the Convokers game that was last night that me and Marquise will also be in. If you didn't catch that, make sure you check that one out. And definitely, like Lionel said, check out all these channels. Everybody's putting out a lot of good content. Most of us are actually sharing our content openly, I think. All of us are at this point, which is great because that's kind of what this hobby's all about. So it's good to see that stuff happening.
Truer words, man. True, like seriously, truer words. And to anyone watching or anyone who does watch this, you want to play an Ironhead game and you want to try it out and see what it's all about, message me on Facebook. I'm on the Absolute Tabletop group. Friend me on Facebook. Hunt me down, leave dead animals on my doorstep, whatever. But contact me, and I am more than happy to give you all the information or maps or history, lore, all that jazz, so you can run your own game and you can shoot orcs with guns. Because in the end, when you strip it all the complexity away, that's really what it's all about, is shooting orcs with guns. But anyway, I digress. Mr. Marquise, you handsome, bold, and beautiful man.
What's up, everybody? Once again, I'm Marquise Hardis, also known as the Bold and the Beautiful Statistical Strider. You can find me under the YouTube under that name, but I also work with a Point of Inspiration. We put out free RPG guides. If you check our Twitter at Point to Aspire, you will see a preview picture and a teaser for what we will be announcing on Monday, one of our next big projects, so be looking for that. Other than that, it was a great game. I'm glad I was able to play, and I can't wait for the next one.
Thanks, man. And of course, last but not least, the bolder and slightly more beautiful Tim Carney.
Oh man, this is awesome. And in fact, I think now is probably the best time to say that we're not coming out with the Copper Jackals, but next Friday we're coming out with a supplement called Orcs with Guns. And
I'm not changing the game, so you better release Copper Jackals.
Yeah. No, we really are. We're super excited. So if you don't know what the Copper Jackals are, this coming Friday, it is a paramilitary organization infused with arcanic, mystical copper that gives them superpowers. And so we have mechanics. It's a whole set of essentially extra feats that you can add to your characters, and then layer on top of that chapters, which are groups that you can join that give you other benefits. So it's a really cool melting pot of just creating awesome supergroups. Big shout out, actually, to two guys in this stream. Chris and Marquise have been pivotal in the development of the Copper Jackals from the beginning. So special thanks to them. If you're not following A Point of Inspiration, you need to be. They make incredible content. I love their content, and so I want to plug those guys too. So, and thank you, Mike. Your game has been amazing. I'm all torqued up, and I hope I don't die.
Me too, because you guys have been doing so well, and I'm not gonna lie, even though I'm throwing everything but the kitchen sink, and possibly next session I'll throw the kitchen sink at you as well. Who knows? You know, these things happen. So this is for me. To all of you, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been a long one, but it's definitely been a fun one. I've had a great time playing with all these guys, and I would invite you to subscribe to all of their channels. And if you've got time, you can subscribe to mine too. Whatevs, you know, whatevs. But I will see you all on the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group, and I look forward to playing our next session of the Ironhead Chronicles: The Siege. So this is Mike, and until then, get inspired.